Is he time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Not good. Believe me, not good.
First, I just want to express my deep, most profound appreciation for Due Dissidents and all of the supporters and backers of Due Dissidents. Due Dissidents heard us when we invited people who were really interested in understanding what this revolutionary movement is all about and how the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement represent a certain continuum in this struggle. We're not just some new phenomenon, but we have moved to take the struggle to a higher level. And Due Dissidents, you came here to investigate, to have this discussion with us. And I also want to express my appreciation. I was told that once people who are part of the Due Dissidents family heard that my wife and I had contracted COVID, that there were so many of you who sent your well wishes and support to us. So I wanted to express appreciation for that and hope that you will continue participating with Due Dissidents. I think we're working on an extraordinary project here that everybody's going to appreciate and learn from. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the Due Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Davila, of course.
Hello.
That was the chairman, Omali Yeshitela. We just wrapped, about a 6.5 hour day? Yeah.
That was a day, man. That was a day.
Yeah. We just interviewed the chairman today. We went for about 6.5 hours and got about 3/4 of the way done. So we will be finishing up the interview tomorrow, but production is back
in the morning.
Yes.
Yep. Then we're gonna go.
Back. Yes,
it's back, baby. Then we're going to the Dred Scott Courthouse. We're gonna be going to an area where literally the term "sold down the river" comes from, where slaves were sold by the Mississippi here in St. Louis. We've still got some work left to do. Today was kind of the big hump day, though.
Yeah. Today was a big day. Sorry, I know the StreamYard's been doing that where it defaults away from my microphone. Now I sound better, right, Russell?
Yeah, you're clear.
Yeah, my Mac, it keeps going. I don't know. It's never done that before. It's never given me that problem before. So, apologies. Good call in the chat. Thanks for the heads up, Saul. Good for making that happen. Appreciate that. Yeah, for some reason it's been defaulting to the computer mic last few episodes. I'm not sure why. But we have a great show for you tonight. Appreciate all of you very much for being here. We want to, of course, begin the evening by welcoming our guest. You all know him, one of the longest time friends of the show, one of the real OG returning champions. I've known this guy for a few years. So have all of you. He ran against Ritchie Torres in New York's 15th district in 2024, and he is running again in 2026. So please welcome our friend here at Due Dissidents, Jose Vega. Jose, what's up, Jose?
What's up, Jose?
Howdy. It's been a minute. It's been a while. I figured you guys would be tired of me by this point.
No, not at all. Not at all. You're looking good, man. You're looking good.
So you look healthy.
You look healthy. You look vital. You look vital.
I've lost.
You drinking that celery juice?
Let me tell you something. The last election put me at the end. I was really depressed. I was really down. I think Russell, you might remember. And I hated myself so much that I lost 35 pounds. And I'm still burning that self.
Really?
Oh yeah. No, I actually did lose 35 pounds.
Yeah. You've been going to the gym?
Swimming every morning.
Yeah. Every
You're
morning?
Pretty much every morning. Although I did take a 2-week hiatus recently, so I'll be going back soon. But,
well, you're not fapping to Tulsi Gabbard anymore. That helps, right? That helps. You know, it's good mentally for you.
I was trying to be professional and serious about this campaign. You know, they asked me if I wanted
if you've been watching the show, you know we have a Tulsi Gabbard sound drop.
I was told
our sound drop.
Yeah. That's not named for you. Don't worry. I was just saying it in jest. But yeah, we know that's a problem in the online community. And so, it's good when people are able to, fix themselves.
I was just saying, I'm about to be on the CNN of the alt media space, the MSNBC of the independent media, and what the fuck?
Right.
Come on, man. You know it's long enough.
Hey,
you know
come
what kind
on.
of party it is over here.
Hey, this is your brand, my guy. You're doing. Hey, this is the horse you rode in on, right?
Yeah, this is what I got. Yep,
this is what you got. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into this because it was a no good, terrible, very bad week for your opponent, incumbent Congressman Ritchie Torres. First, it was revealed that not only did he vote for, arms package after arms package to Israel, but that he was personally investing in these weapons companies and personally profiting off of that. Then he went on the Adam Friedland show where he was really just put to shame for his lack of empathy as Adam's pouring his heart out about his journey into and then out of Zionism. So it was really a terrible week for your opponent, which is a great week for you, which is part of why we brought you on, because you were, of course, quick to capitalize on this. So we're going to play this video, but do you want to explain where you were and why you went here when you did?
Yeah, so I was pretty pissed off when the news came out that he was personally profiting off of the death of children. And actually the news dropped, at least I read it the night before I did this video. And I actually went to go see Jimmy because he was in town. And the moment I left hanging out with him, I was just itching. I was like, I need to do something, right? Because I'm his opponent. I'm here. So I need to say something about this. So I was like hate scrolling Ritchie Torres's content this whole month. And I realized, oh, he's pretending he cares about the district again. He was showing up at different places in the Bronx. And I'm like, why the fuck don't I know where this guy is? So he wasn't posting where he was going. So I saw that the most recent place he was at the place I went to, McKinley Houses, right? Where he plays this terrible video of like an old person who's in like a wheelchair and can barely breathe. And it's just like, we love Ritchie. We only want Ritchie. And he's like, see, everyone here loves me. Everyone here is with me 100%. So I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So I'm going to go over there and I'm going to talk to those people who live where he just was to see if they really do love him. So that's why I went there.
Okay. So let's take a look at this video here. Is about 3 minutes, but this was pretty great. So let's take a look at Jose interacting with the residents of this area recently visited by Ritchie Torres.
We're coming for you.
So it turns out that Israel's biggest cheerleader, Ritchie Torres, was personally profiting off of the slaughter and genocide of the Palestinian people. Not only was he voting against ceasefire resolutions, not only was he voting to send money, arms, and weapons to Israel, he was investing in the same companies that were producing missiles, bombs, bullets that would be used to kill 80% of the casualties in Palestine, which turned out to be innocent civilians. That's the person who represents this area. And that's who I'm here to talk to the constituents. See, he was here 3 days ago in McKinley Houses.
Hello, it's Congressman Torres from the Bronx. I'm here at McKinley Houses in the South Bronx.
And so I want to talk to the constituents to see if they know what their congressman has been up to, show them a good alternative, me, and see just what their concerns about and how much they actually do care about Palestine and Israel. Do you know who this man is?
I don't.
No.
No. Nah.
No. This man is Congressman Ritchie Torres, and he represents this district. And it was revealed that he is investing in companies that make weapons, missiles, bombs, and bullets. He himself personally was investing in these companies that send weapons and missiles to Israel. He's doing it under your name. For the last 4 years, was voting to send money and weapons to Israel. This video is of journalists at a hospital in Palestine, live TV. You see Israel just strikes them out of nowhere. Just watch that. Boom.
I had to blur that for YouTube, obviously.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Oh. These are journalists at a hospital in Gaza,
What are
in
they
Palestine.
doing?
They're there. They're just working there at the hospital. All of us, boom. An Israeli missile.
Wow.
A missile hit these journalists on live TV. That is what Ritchie Torres is voting to send money and weapons to. He is the biggest cheerleader for the genocide that's happening in Palestine.
Oh, wow.
He invested money into the companies that make missiles and weapons that are sent to Israel.
For real?
Yeah. I'm dead ass.
That is, I don't know, that's something else.
That's the person who represents you right now.
Oh, no, but we don't want him. We want you there. Get it. Kick him out.
Remember the name Jose Vega.
Jose Vega? Okay.
We need a new Congress.
Yeah.
You do need a new Congress, and you
do.
need a new congressman. My name's Jose Vega. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Jose Vega.
Jose Vega. Check my boy Jose Vega out.
My name's Jose Vega, and I want to represent you. Would you support me?
I would support you.
Yeah, you'll vote for me?
Vote Jose.
Remember the name, Jose Vega.
Jose Vega, I got you.
All right. Nicely done, man. I mean, that reminds me of what I said at your fundraiser a little over a year ago, that, if enough people know who this guy is, then anything can happen. And it's just a matter of just showing people. I mean, what you did there is so powerful. You show what is clearly a premeditated attack on these journalists. He supports this full-throatedly. Not only to support it, he's profiting off of it. What do you think about that? And, anyone with a beating heart in their chest is going to feel the same way about it. So very nicely done.
Well, that's what I was just thinking about too, because you had said if just everybody in the Bronx who voted for this guy just knew what he was up to, they would not vote for him again, and they would clearly vote for me. And I was like, wait, yeah, let's actually just try that, right? Let's just go over there where Ritchie Torres says he has his support. He clearly doesn't. And actually, there were a few more interactions that I was unable to keep in the video because, and actually, let this be a greater point for you all. I filmed that with my friend Kynan, and that was it, right? And then I edited it myself. So, don't worry if your mom is not a film director who makes Disney movies, and your dad's not a famous academician.
Shots fired.
I'm not resentful. I'm not resentful. But it's a good point though, because I just did, this is the most low budget thing I did. And I want to encourage everybody else to go do the same thing. Cause Ritchie Torres is not the only AIPAC funded congressman out there, right? The chances are that wherever you are watching this current live stream from, you can go and do the same thing, and you should record it so that you can make it a trend for other people to go out and do the same thing and inform the people about their congressman. But what would you say? Oh yeah, going out and doing this, whatnot. So there were a few more interactions that I couldn't put there. Like there was one very nice lady who, and the reason I couldn't put it was because Kynan had shot the film way too dark. And so it just looks like silhouettes talking to each other. And no hate on Kynan. He's learning as we go along with this. But he did the rest of the shooting. So, and hi Kynan. But she said, "Oh, I know Ritchie Torres. Yeah, he was just here the other day, and he said he wants to do something on housing." And I was like, "Great. Well, can you point to me to something he has done on housing?" And she couldn't, because he actually hasn't done anything for the public housing here. And I gave her the whole briefing, and she was like, "This is the first time I've heard about this. I didn't know that Ritchie Torres was doing this." And it's like, yeah, right. So let that one dispel the myth that the people of the Bronx don't care about anything but getting food on the table. I hate that. I hate that so much because they don't. And secondly, let that go to show you the lack of knowledge that people have. Your neighbors don't watch Due Dissidents as much as they should. Not that, not that, like it will be the MSNBC of the independent media space someday.
Oh, thanks. Great compliment.
That's very nice. Very
nice of you to say.
Nice of you.
But your neighbors don't know the things that you think they should know. And if they did know, they would be acting completely differently. And so I would just say, like, now's the time to just go out and say, I don't care what your politics are. Our congressman is funding this. Are you willing to let this stand or not? That's all it takes at this point now, because that's how depraved this is. It's been like over 2 years now of just pure genocide, right? People want to keep talking about October 7th. You can't say October 7th anymore. It's just ridiculous to say, well, but October 7th. What about October 7th? Okay, that was almost 2 years ago at this point. Why did you kill 80% of the people that have died in Palestine so far are civilians, right? So how many? All right, at least. So how many October 7th have we done for that population at that point? That's all you've got. Even my dad, whom I love to death, who is a Christian fundamentalist, is starting to come around. He saw that video I put out. I put it out on Facebook of all places, which I hate Facebook. And I just did that because Instagram lets you auto post it. He saw it and he said, son, I'm proud of what you're doing, and he said, I think that's wrong, killing in the name of God, right? Like my dad, who's like, hardcore Christian fundamentalist Zionist, is like this. Yeah, this is
a Zionist. Your dad?
My dad's a Zionist. I hate to say that. He's not. He wouldn't call himself a Zionist. Like, he doesn't know what that means. He's like Ted Cruz. Like he's like, well, son.
My dad's like Ted Cruz.
Like he's this whole, like he says, like God. God
so
says
he's gay?
No. He says. My dad's like, well, in the Bible, it says, blessed are those that, bless Israel. Like he said this to me even before it was popular, when Tucker Carlson was saying it. And, Mike, that's just my dad, who's bought into the Christian fundamentalism of it. But now he's like, he's being won over. And this isn't to jump on my dad or anything. My dad has always supported my campaign. And funny, actually, I went to go visit my dad in December. He's like, son, I think you put up a hell of a fight and a great campaign, and I'm sorry you didn't win. And I just don't think God was on your side because of how critical you were of Israel, and I can't fight against God. God didn't want you to win, and so you might want to reconsider that, son, but I know where you're coming from. So, that was kind of funny, actually. But regardless, my dad's still a supporter. He's still here for me. So,
Yeah. See, my dad is Jewish, but my dad is at that Palestine conference in Detroit this weekend. But he had a big problem. He accidentally booked a hotel in Canada because it's right across the river from Detroit, and he didn't have his passport with him, so he couldn't get to it. So he had to fight them for a refund and then book another place. Yeah. So those are the misadventures of my dad. But I wanted to, because you said something interesting about how the people in the Bronx don't just care about the kitchen table issues and the finances and stuff like that, and I think that's true and encouraging if so. But I think you made this point on RBN the other day. You pointed out how these things are kind of connected in the sense that Torres, as part of that Adam Friedland interview, tried to downplay U.S. support for Israel by claiming, well, it's only however many $1 billion out of a $7 trillion budget, or I forget the exact math. I think he said $25 billion, which we could end homelessness in America for $25 billion. So in his district, you could probably end homelessness for $500 million. So it actually is quite a bit of money. It actually is quite a large investment that we make that does affect people's bottom line.
That is what the big response is when I say we've sent $25 billion to Israel. The first thing people do say is, oh my God, that's crazy. They just closed down a Catholic All Hallows school. So there's a school here in the South Bronx, was here, now it's not anymore, called All Hallows. It was the only Catholic high school in the South Bronx that was churning out a 100% graduation rate, which is like completely unheard of that they had this. And the reason they were shut down was because they needed, I think it was like $15 million or something. And the community raised $12 million. And Ritchie Torres was aware of this. Vanessa Gibson, the borough president, was aware of this. Nobody said, here's the remaining $3 million. Ritchie Torres could have called his donors, okay, and said, hey, this Catholic school needs $3 million. Can somebody? He didn't do that. And so that's like the thing that people bring up immediately is, yeah, well, why are we closing down schools and yet we have all this money for Israel, right? Why are we closing down hospitals and yet we have all this money for Israel, right? So, people are very aware of our financial support for Israel and how they're being shortchanged here in the Bronx, which is also why a lot of people have given up support on the federal government. And I understand that. People are like, listen, I like you, kid, but I don't know if I'll go out and vote anymore because I'm tired of voting, and it doesn't actually fundamentally change anything. I'll give you I was in Woodlawn recently, which is a big Irish part of the Bronx. And this nice old lady, thick Irish accent, 72 years old, she sees my table and she's just kind of standing at afar. And then she comes over and she says, I must tell you, I voted for Trump. And she started crying because I thought he was crying. She started crying because she said, I thought he was going to end the wars. He said he was going to end the wars. And I voted for Trump because Kamala Harris wanted to keep the wars going. And Trump said he wanted to stop. And now I feel complicit in the genocide because he's allowed it to continue. And so, she was like freaked the hell out. And in that case, me being an independent was like the thing that won her over to donate. She donated $20 right there. She just pulled out her purse and gave us $20 because she's like, how can I trust you? How do I know you're just not like any other politician? I said, ma'am, I'm doing the hardest way you can be a politician, which is I'm going in as an independent.
Right.
And that to her was like, okay, well, then that for me is a basis that I think I can trust you on. Just the very fact you're not going in the two-party system. Because she was like, really just like, I could see this was something that she thought she was personally responsible for the deaths of the people in Palestine because of her vote. And she meant well voting for Trump. She was obviously, she was wrong, but I'm not going to recriminate her. Some people really did believe that. And, everybody went through some kind of like shock at the election. So not to bring this down.
No worries. Russ, I have one more piece.
He's not a revolutionary?
He's not a revolutionary.
I heard he was a revolutionary.
Russ, do you have anything before I go to the next piece here? I got one more piece for Jose.
Well, yeah, I actually, I don't know if you want to do this before or after. Jose is running for office, and in the current environment, yeah, he has a shot. Ritchie Torres is just going to get more exposed. I think the tide is definitely turning, where people who hitched their star to the Zionism wagon are going to crash and burn. We're doing a story later today. Culture, I think, is an indicator of where things are going. What's happening at the Venice Film Festival, I think, says a lot, because the most cowardly people on earth are people in the arts, terrified that the Zionists are going to destroy their career. And everybody's speaking out at this Venice Film Festival. All that to say, Jose, I know, unlike most candidates you're going to see today, especially a candidate who's a young whippersnapper like yourself, you have very developed ideas about industrial policy. I saw you put out a video about putting the Bronx back to work. What's your policy in that area? What would you do to put people back to work?
Wow, this is great. You guys actually want to talk policy. That's awesome. Who's the other young whippersnapper candidates that I'm going to see later today?
Are you seeing another one?
No. It's just you were saying like there will be other candidates I see later today that'll be young whippersnappers. I'm not dodging the policy question. I just want to know who is the other young person that's running.
Is that what? No, I didn't say that.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway, no.
You are the young whippersnapper.
You're the young whippersnapper.
Oh, wow.
I'm saying you don't really see a young candidate talking industrial policy.
Oh. Dude,
that's not really what they tend to talk about.
That is my whole okay. So apart from being depressed and trying to lose weight, I did a lot of studying on Bronx history and its role in industry. So, this may surprise you, but like there used to be 476 piano companies in the United States. In the 1910s, and 56 of them were in the Bronx, right? Like
there were a lot in Brooklyn too.
So, so you know your stuff, right? Yeah. And not only that, but like there were a bunch of iron foundry companies in the Bronx as well. And so the Bronx was always seen as a place for industry. And the last steel plant that existed here in the Bronx is called the Grand Iron Works, which is in Hunts Point. And they were pumping out 50,000 metric tons of steel a year. And they built most of the New York City skyline. And they were shut down in 1977. And what the workers wanted to do before it was shut down, they wanted to own it. That workers themselves wanted to put up their own money and procure the money to buy the company so that it could be worker-led. And they then went to Bronx Community College at night to learn how to manage a factory from the top down, like from the upper management to the floor. And I interviewed the professor, Dr. Juchter, who was the one managing them and teaching them how to manage a factory from the top down. It was like really cool. So that is kind of like my dream, is to build new cities. We don't have new cities being built, and we are losing the ones we have right now. And I don't know if you guys watched Icarus Fest, but like Christian Parenti started talking about Hamilton, and like I started getting a boner right there, because like Hamilton is like my guy. I love Alexander Hamilton.
So you're fapping to Hamilton now, not Tulsi Gabbard.
And like, so I start telling him about Matthew Carey, Henry Carey, like the American system of economics. And I said, like, we need to reinvest in industry again. We need to rebuild the cities we have now and build new cities. Because that, like, if you were to just do a crash program where you're like, okay, by 2036, we need to have 10 new cities. That is like a fuck ton of steel, a lot of glass. That is a lot of cement. That is a whole lot of material. So you need materials to build cities. You need people to build cities, and you need management to manage these things, right? And that's going to cost you trillions of dollars that we send overseas stupidly. So now you're talking about taking the money we spend on defense and saying, what if we just invested it here at home? And so now you can rapidly improve almost every facet of the standards of living of America just by saying we need our workers to be healthy and educated. So you have to therefore make sure that people have access to healthcare, and you have to make sure that their schools are good. At the same time, you have to make sure that like there's a big mental health crisis. If you're going to take young people that have gone through years of genocide, school shootings, and wars, they're going to be a little fucked up in the head. You know, the suicide rates is just like so incredibly high now. And people wonder why. Well, the culture's fucked up. You know, the same day that Columbine happened was the same day that Bill Clinton dropped the most bombs on Yugoslavia, right? So you have violence at home, people shooting up schools, and then you have the violence we commit to other countries around the world. You're going to need to have a robust mental health program in order to ensure that young people don't go crazy while they're learning and getting educated in the skills that they need to build new cities. And most importantly, you're building up a healthy kind of debt, because if you're printing out, if you have a national bank that its only job is to issue credit, what you're doing at that point is you're issuing this money and you're saying, here's $2 trillion to go and build 5 new cities. All right. We know that there won't be an immediate return on investment because building cities isn't profitable. But with that $2 trillion, you create wealth by creating productive new jobs. You know, you have to now invest in people. You have to make sure that they're paid so that they can go home to their families and whatnot. And you've created jobs for the next 3 decades because somebody's going to have to manage these cities as well. So that's like in a nutshell, in like a very small nutshell, like my industrial policy. And also that's how you solve the immigration problem too, because Christian Parenti had said the problem with new cities is that you don't have the population to fill it. Well, you have a whole bunch of migrants that are coming from countries that we've displaced. Why not, in exchange for them getting the training to be city builders, you give them the citizenship so that they are actually building up this country, and in exchange they get to live here. They can facilitate and occupy these cities because our population is declining. We do need more population. More population is a good thing. People are a good thing. We need more people. And so that is Hamiltonian economics. That's what Matthew Carey and Henry Carey and some of these great early American people who were trying to build cities were totally into. So,
well, Jose, why would we, especially sitting in a place like St. Louis, earlier this year, I spent a couple of months in Buffalo. The whole country is full of depopulated, deindustrialized cities. Why not just rebuild those instead of building new cities?
That's right. That's exactly right. Because these centers are like Detroit. I don't know if you've been to Detroit. Detroit's
that I have not been to.
It's when I was there, it's a ghost town. I think that the Palestine conference might have been like the biggest economic input that they've had in a long time. But yes, it's exactly right. Because you turn these places that still have the like here in the Bronx and Hunts Point, like the rail lines from when they were taking the iron ore all the way from Pennsylvania to the Bronx are still there. Right. So there is already a foundation in all of these places that have been deindustrialized to just turn them back on, like Paterson, New Jersey. I don't know if you guys been to Paterson, New Jersey. That place is a fucking hellhole. It is a hellhole. And it used to be one of the greatest places to get silk. It used to be considered the place you can get the best silk in the world. It was one of the places that had the most textile factories, right? So there is an infrastructure in these places that have been deindustrialized where you say these are going to be the centers for the new American Reconstruction program. We're going to get the steel from the Bronx. We're going to get the steel from Detroit. We're going to get the steel from St. Louis. We're going to get it from Paterson. We're going to get it from Danville, Virginia. And some of this steel will hopefully be used in the rebuilding efforts of Gaza that has been destroyed. Okay, because they're going to have to get that steel from somewhere, and they're going to get it from here. And that is going to be my atonement for the responsibility that I play in the genocide as being an American citizen. We all are responsible for that. And the way we're going to atone for the destruction that we've done is we're going to ship over the steel and the manpower and the education that we start here in the United States. We're going to export that to Gaza and to other places around the world that we've destroyed. And we're going to aid in the rebuilding efforts, and we're going to let them decide how they want to rebuild and how they want to govern. And they're going to have their sovereignty again. And that's going to be USAID. That's going to be real US aid. So, yeah.
All right. Let me ask you. So Trump has this industrial policy that's very built around tariffs, while at the same time being very hostile to unions. And whenever Besant or Pigman, Howard Lutnick, are asked about these factories of the future and how they're going to staff them, they immediately start salivating about AI and automation. Immediately, they go right to that. They go right to it immediately. It's incredible. Like, they don't say, well, we have a lot of workers here. Immediately when they're asked that, they say, well, these are going to be smart factories. It's going to be a lot of automation. So while I think you can make an argument for certain strategic tariffs to bring industry here, I can't see how that would work without pairing it with a policy to actually put people back to work and build factories that people are going to work in. And it doesn't seem like those things, like it doesn't make sense to me that you're doing this for the worker while at the same time having policies that are so anti-worker and hostile to workers. So what do you think about these policies as they've been executed, and how would you do them differently if you would indeed do it differently?
The core epistemological problem with Trump and his reindustrialization plan, one is that he doesn't actually have a reindustrialization plan. I mean, I agree with you that tariffs can be good. This is what Kerry had advocated for, but only if you have an industrialization policy to back it. So for people who may not understand, if we're going to be making steel pans, right, just as an example, cost 50% more to be imported in. So you're going to have to be paying 50% more for steel pans that are made in China. Well, the steel pans that are made here in America are just of lower quality, and they're expensive to produce too, right? After NAFTA and after the Bretton Woods that we dissolved from, it has become more expensive to be in an industrial country. That was why we began the deindustrialization processes in the 70s with the removal and the leaving and the dissolving of the Bretton Woods system, and then finally with NAFTA, which completely killed us, which is why like Danville, Virginia looks the way it does. And I keep talking about Danville, Virginia, because there's a donor there who educated me on how Danville, Virginia became the Paterson, New Jersey of Virginia. But regardless, like, I do agree with you. Yes, tariffs paired with an industrialization policy can work, but It's just there isn't one there. And the epistemological problem with Trump is that his idea of economy and economic growth and development is not schools and hospitals. For him, it might be casinos and hotels and luxury real estate, right? So the things that you're building, like you can get 1,000 jobs for people to build a casino, which is what they tried to do here in the Bronx, in Pelham Bay, where they were about to build a Bailey's casino. See, they were trying to shut down another school over there, an all-girls Catholic high school. They were going to shut that down, and they were going to build a casino. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And but like Eric Adams is saying, well, that's good because it's going to bring jobs for people to construct this stuff too. Yeah, but long term, a casino kills your economy and it kills your culture and it kills your people. So no, like 1,000 jobs towards building a hospital is much more meaningful and productive than 1,000 jobs towards building a casino. And that's the problem with Trump. And that's exactly what the problem with his whole, Gaza reconstruction plan, turning it into a Riviera, is complete bullshit, And it's also why on the flip side, like this Green New Deal jobs, like the Green Job Corps initiative is going to kill the economy. Because if you have 10,000 people replacing fossil fuels, which should be phased out, but they're replacing it with a lower form of energy density. So like with solar and wind, which just are not as effective in producing energy as the current fossil fuel systems we have now, you will only kill your economy. You will have brownouts and blackouts, and the fossil fuel companies will continue to exist because currently the policy is that they will have to continue to work to be there if the renewable energies aren't available at a given time. And then they charge premiums for it. This is what they do in places like Germany, where the fossil fuel companies are still there, and they charge a fortune to be turned on because, like, hey, we're not on all the time. And for us to be profitable, we got to charge you gobs of money. And so, as long as you're okay with that, and then the person who ends up hurting is you. The people who actually pay your electric bill will become much more expensive, which is why I'm such a big advocate for things like nuclear power, because nuclear power has, for like much less square mileage and many more jobs, produces a much higher energy output than fossil fuels and is much cleaner than gas and oil and whatnot. So there are just many aspects to economy and industrialization that are much more important that I think more people on the left should be unafraid to take up. I think you can't just, like, you need to have this. Like, you can say you're a socialist. I don't care what anybody calls themselves, but it's like you need to be able to write out what a policy, like, what do you want Reconstruction to look like? And I think it does include energy, roads, and hospitals, and just infrastructure. My dream is a maglev network where I can get from here to St. Louis or California in less than 9 hours, like anywhere on a maglev train. That to me is like, that's my goal too, as somebody who would be in the Congress.
Well, yeah, now even with Amtrak, you can't get from New York to St. Louis in less than 30 hours. It takes twice as long by train than to drive because of the transfers and all that. Yeah, so no, I think a rail line like that would be an amazing idea, and I know that's something that you've mentioned quite a few times over the years. I want to do one more piece about your opponent, Ritchie Torres, because I have a question for you about some New York City politics that is sort of tangentially related to the race you're running. So Ritchie Torres was talking a lot over the past year about how he wanted to run for governor. And he hinted in the run-up to the mayoral primary that he would not run for governor should Zoran Mamdani win the New York primary, because he would see that as, I guess, too strong a repudiation of his politics on a key issue in a high-population city, obviously. So now we have it. Ritchie Torres will not run for governor. Torres had flirted with a run against Hochul, but decided against it after Zoran Mamdani won the Democratic mayoral primary. Representative Ritchie Torres said he is unlikely to run for governor as he intends to advocate for his Bronx district, given the unprecedented policies coming out of Congress and the Trump administration. Torres had already hinted he would probably stay out of the race if Mamdani beat former Governor Andrew Cuomo in last week's Democratic primary. This was, of course, written just after the primary for New York City. He's since changed his tune on the reasoning behind the decision, but it would appear he's true to his original word now that Mamdani has won. So as someone who called the primary wrong and assumed Cuomo would win, as did many at the time, I predicted that Torres would end up running for governor, which would have made your race slightly more complicated because he'd be seeking the statewide office as well. So my question is, do you see the Mamdani victory as a repudiation of Torres's politics? And also, do you think that Mamdani succeeding emboldens campaigns like yours? Our friend Shama Sawant's running as an independent in Washington State. We interviewed her right after Mamdani won the primary, and she said, despite all of our criticisms of him running as a Democrat and DSA and all that, she says she did see a surge in interest in her campaign because people thought, hey, if Zionism could be defeated in New York City, it could happen anywhere. So what do you think about that?
It's quite interesting being in New York, because all the advice I get is just be like Zoran. Just be like Zoran and you can win. That's like the first of all, let me just make my stance on Mr. Mamdani very, very clear. I already treat him like he's about to be the mayor. There is no world in which Cuomo will succeed him unless they shoot Zoran, in which case, and that is a genuine fear of mine. All these people like Charlie Kirk, who are calling him like a Muslim extremist, saying he's going to bring the intifada, they can fuck off with that, because they were saying the same thing about the mainstream media last year as motivation for why they killed Trump. Kirk was saying, oh, this is because the media was calling him a Nazi and Hitler, and who doesn't want to shoot Hitler? And yet here he is doing the same thing to Mamdani, saying he's going to bring Sharia law to New York. So, I think he's trying to get an assassination on Mamdani, but barring that, Mamdani's going to be the mayor. Do I consider a boost to campaigns like mine? Yes, because it was almost so scary how well he answered the question, where would you go to, after you become the mayor? Like, what's the first country you'd visit? And it was so good. It was too good. I was so suspicious of that. I was like, these fucking anchors are in on it to make him look good. Because of course the right answer is, why the fuck would I go anywhere but New York City? Right. So I thought it was good that he said that, but regardless, because everybody thought Cuomo was going to win because of first of all, the Zionists here in New York, also the liberals in the Upper East Side and places like that. But no, even in some big Jewish areas, Zoran won those over. Now, let me make one thing clear. Zoran didn't win the Bronx. I believe Cuomo got something like 54% of the vote in the Bronx, and then he got like 34%. Mamdani got 34% of the vote in the Bronx, and that's
Well, I think Cuomo won Harlem too, right?
I believe he did too. Yeah, he did very good in the black population. That's what he did. I mean, I gotta say, they brought Cuomo to the Bronx, and what's his name, the old borough president, Rafael Salamanca. No, not Salamanca. It was this other guy. The former borough president before the one we had now was bringing Cuomo around, and he was saying the Bronx is Cuomo country. This is Cuomo country. I was like, oh my god! These are real videos that they were doing.
No, I saw them in my neighborhood in Harlem.
Yeah,
I saw them going around campaigning for him.
So I think overall, if I actually do see myself as somebody running in the first of all, I'm going to treat Zoran like I would treat any politician. I'm going to hold his feet to the fire. He hasn't had a chance to govern as mayor yet. I know that he has done some stuff in the assembly, and I'm already critical of some of his policy platform ideas. But regardless, my personal feelings on Zoran is I want to like him, but like AOC and these others, I've seen this story before. I've seen this bit before. And if the very pessimistic view is that Zoran was a test, the Democratic Party let him have it to see, are people really tired of Israel? Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens if people really are this tired of Israel. That's what I think happened, and he was able to get through. Do I want to like him? I do want to like him, but I'm not starry-eyed about him. I'm not oh my God, I'm not going to go out and canvass for the guy. I don't think he needs it. Am I going to shit on Andrew Cuomo? Yeah, absolutely. The guy stole my video content. I don't know if you saw the next day, Cuomo puts up a video. The next day after I put out my video, he puts out a video with him talking to a constituent. He's like, do you know this guy Zoran Mamdani? Well, this is his policy platform. He wants to defund the police. What do you think about that?
Interesting.
Like,
I thought he got up and called Nancy Pelosi an ugly drunk. I would be like, yeah, that would have definitely been stealing from Jose. But no, he borrowed from your policy video. Okay. Interesting.
Sure,
But I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Sure,
was like,
Kynan
wow.
didn't tip him off.
Yeah.
So, I think and if I actually do become the congressman of this area, I would have to work with Zoran because he is the mayor of the city, and this is the poorest congressional district in the entire country. And that's the other thing about Torres not running for governor that makes sense why he hitched his horse. Because when you're in the federal government, your job is to fight with the president, right? In order to bring federal money, any kind, and that's why I'm running for Congress. All of the infrastructure plans we're talking about, even if it's just like I have some local infrastructure plans too, like a cross Bronx train or even a tri-borough train. Like, it's bullshit that we don't have a train that goes from the Bronx to Queens to Brooklyn. Yeah. So what that's going to require is the governor signing off on that, getting federal money for that. Right? That's like a two-pronged approach. Like Zoran as the mayor, the best he can do is advocate for it. That's he can't do a major infrastructure plan. And even if Ritchie Torres or whoever the governor wanted to do a plan like that, they have to plead with the president. Can you please give us this money? So that's just how the sort of politics works. And I think, Ritchie Torres talked way too much crap to Zoran to then go into the governorship, because then you would have to work with the mayor to get things done. So he's like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. And then Zoran posed with Ritchie Torres, I think a few days after winning the primary, he goes up to the Bronx and he takes a picture with like a lot of these like corrupt Bronx officials. And that was, but see, I don't know if I consider that a red flag or if Zoran is trying to be serious about being mayor. Cause like, you do have to kind of be good with the people who get you the federal money, right? Like, so,
well, it's both. I mean, in my opinion, when you take a picture with a Ritchie Torres, to me, the reason that's not good is because you are signaling to him that you want something from him, that you want his approval. And in doing so, you give him power over you, right? And that's how you kind of get compromised and absorbed into the system. That being said, you're right, I think, in the sense that, like, yes, it's both a red flag and also completely foreseeable and part of the deal when you run inside the two-party system. That's why, like, if I lived in New York City, I'd vote for Mamdani because I think he'll probably get a rent freeze through since he has enough power to do that. And I also think it'll be easier to protest against Israel under Mamdani than under Cuomo or Adams. So I would vote for him. But the reason I won't bring him on and talk him up the way I'm doing with you or the way we do with Shama is because, running inside the duopoly means it's inevitable you have to make those compromises. And then we have to kind of sign off on that, and I'm not comfortable doing that. So, I think it's both. I think it's a red flag, and it's just it's part of it's the price of doing business when you run as a Democrat, which is why there's only so big an investment I'm willing to make in a Democrat, which is essentially none, besides saying on election day, if I lived in New York, I would vote for him over Netanyahu's lawyer. Yes, I would.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And also, do you think Zoran would come on your show? I'm not trying to be smug. I'm like,
no, he
serious.
wouldn't. He would. Well, we asked him, and nothing.
We
some of our
him
peers have
like
asked him,
at
and
5% in the polls.
Yeah.
We asked for his support on our idea for Sharia law bialys. He never got back to us.
Well, you know what? Let me pledge my support for a Sharia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. No. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's the other reason why I don't believe the Dem Tea Party is a thing, because if Zoran was like serious about this, I would be interested to see how he acts after actually getting into the mayoralship. Like, after winning the primary, he hired this Obama insider guy, right?
The
guy's name. And then suddenly he said, like, well, yeah, I am for a two-state solution now. And no, I don't want to defund the police. Like, he's like backing up on stuff that he was saying while he was campaigning, which again is just part, as you said, part of the deal as running in the two-party system that you make. That's why, so that's why I don't believe the Dem Tea Party thing, because if that was me in that position, like if I actually did run in the Dem primary and like I somehow won in the mayoral race, I'd be like, you know what, New York City, I don't give a fuck. We're coming for the rest of you elected officials. Like we proved that we can win, you know, by not bending the knee to Israel. Like Adriano Espaillat, I see you. We're coming after you. We're running somebody against you next year. Ritchie Torres, your ass is definitely out. Like I'm going to take the 50,000 person movement I claim to have, and I'm going to give people a government again that is not owned by AIPAC, because that is the power that I've organized, right? So the fact that he's kowtowing now to oh yeah, you know, instead of taking that energy and saying like I'm about to go to war with my own party and I'm gonna make the party mine. Like that's the thing that pisses me off about AOC and Bernie's Stop the Oligarchy tour. It's like, what about the oligarchy in your own party? Right. And that's the thing with Zoran too. Like New York City politics is corrupt as hell. You have 50,000 people that are willing to go and door knock for you. Why the hell don't you go and use that to like overthrow all of the AIPAC funded Democrats? You know, maybe now is the time to do that. But instead, you're just going to be like, you know, I'm just going to kind of soften my positions. No, go to war. Go to war.
I mean, honestly, Jose, in a lot of ways, you know, the conservative critique is not completely off base, that this is a revolt of the PMCs that's really driving his campaign. The system's not working for them anymore. Like a lot of his support are the same people who backed Hillary 10 years ago, man. They're the same kind of people. They're the same, not all of them, but what put him over the top, the system's not working for them anymore. So now they are coming around to a more radical kind of politics. You know, the idea of a child of privilege like Mamdani being you know, drawn to radical politics. I mean, that's an old story. How sincere he is about it. You know, it's interesting being out here. You know, we're doing a documentary on the Uhuru movement, so going into a lot of the people who came out of the same Black Power movement that O'Malley did. And yeah, man, I mean, the ones that didn't get assassinated got co-opted. You know, you look at Bobby Rush, he co-founded the Black Panther chapter with Fred Hampton in Chicago. He went on to be one of the biggest Democratic Party dick suckers around, man. And I was like, no, seriously. Like, you look at that guy and you can watch documentary. There's a documentary on HBO from 1971, the assassination of Fred Hampton. You can see Bobby Rush up there with Fred Hampton, radical as can be. He's out there stumping for Kamala, you know. Now he's still alive. You know?
No, well, on that score, I mean, look what happened with the Republican Tea Party. I mean, the Republican Tea Party had some successes in terms of like changing the faces at the leadership level. They primaried out some very prominent, you know, sort of Mitt Romney types. But where did that lead? I mean, if you think of Trump as a sort of, you know, admittedly sort of mutated version of the Tea Party, like Trump is not quite, he doesn't really represent their politics per se. But he is an outgrowth of that. I think without the Tea Party, you wouldn't have had Trump. And where are we with that? That supposed hostile takeover of the party leaves us where? Leaves us with a Trump second term that looks a lot like what George Bush's third term would have looked like. I mean, an awful lot, right? So, like, what on that, like, on that level, like, yeah, when you work within the two-party system, even if you win, you're doomed, because the forces behind these candidates seems to swallow you, no matter which of these two major parties you run in, which is why I think the only real serious way is the hardest way, unfortunately, which is what you're doing and what Shama's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to say, like, you know, Shama Sawan she's clearly proven that you can do it through the city council, and I wish her nothing but love and hope and respect. I hope she wins against Adam Smith. Guy's a fucking asshole. And, you know, what we're doing here in the Bronx, I mean, when we got the office in July, I didn't think we would keep it open after November. I didn't know what I was going to do after November, to be quite honest with you. And the fact that I was able to keep the office open, it costs money to keep this thing open. You know, this little headquarters here, you know, where we have our posters, that was our fundraiser poster there that I'm blocking. But the fact that we kept our headquarters open here in the Bronx, I think, shows what we have organized so far, that people are willing to support and help us meet our $4,000 a week quota just to run basic operation expenses. And we did that in like the middle of winter, when nobody gave a fuck about politics anymore. And that was my first indication of like, okay, like we're building something here in the Bronx that is kind of like outside of the electoral system and people that understand the importance of, you know, a movement. And that is what really inspired me to say, okay, now I can actually, like, I feel more confident now than when I did this last year. I did this because it was the right thing to do. It's like no one's going after this guy. Like he should have some opposition. Now it's like, no, I should fucking win against this guy. I should win against this guy. And I can only do that with the support of you guys who are watching this and you guys who are interviewing me, you know, who helped us finance this and keep this alive. I mean, you know, I would not be here if it wasn't for collectively all of you who are watching, including Keaton and Russ. Like this, like I am a child of the alternate independent space. Like that is what I am. Like I was telling Max at Icarus Fest, like I remember watching him confront Michael Carpenter, some State Department douche in 2018 and like being inspired by that. Like, you know, and like I am your baby. I am like independent media space. Like I'm here and I understand
it's baby's second congressional campaign.
That's right. All right. Well, you can help our baby out by going to votevega.nyc. That's the campaign site. Jose, we will let you go. Thanks for making time for us tonight. Appreciate seeing you as always. Good luck with the campaign. And we will see more of you in the days, weeks, and months to come for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
All
Thank
right,
you
we'll
for
go.
having
We'll
me.
go to Sylvia's when I get back, man.
Okay.
There you go.
Good. I haven't had fast food in a long time, so let's do it.
All right. Let's do it. All right. Thanks, Jose. Bye-bye.
Thanks, man.
All right. That's Jose Vega. Everybody, round of applause in the chat. Thanks to Jose for making time for us. Glad we could put that together. Appreciate seeing Jose as always. What do we got here? 1,500 strong in the YouTube chat, 679 strong over on Rumble. Smash that like button. We're at 571, folks. Let's get over 666 by the end of the next segment. Jake is in the booth this evening as well. Shout out to Jake. Round of applause for Jake in the chat, please. And thank you. Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99 super sticker and the hype. Yeah, YouTube has this new thing where you can hype certain videos. You don't just like them, you hype them. Apparently they give they give people hype points and you can use them on your favorite videos. So hype this video. Let's see how that works. I don't even know how that works, but give us a little hype. Can we get a little hype? You could give us some hype, you know. So we don't ask for much. We ask for maybe a little hype.
I haven't even noticed that.
Yeah, I heard about it and then I saw it on one video. It gave me the option to hype it. But yeah, that's how that works. Landrew, thanks for the $100. Let's have a digital cowbell for Landrew, please. Landrew says, thank you for giving...
used a little more cowbell.
Yeah, there you go. Says, thank you for giving voice to a hero for Palestine. Vega for Congress. $100 done. Beautiful. Much love and many hugs to you and yours. Well, thank you, Landrew. That's
thank you,
very kind
Landrew.
of you. Appreciate that very much. It's a me. Thanks for the $4.99. Says economic history is so important. Please have on Michael Hudson. His work directly relates to this conversation. Yeah, we should put him on the interview list. We have an interview list for when Russ gets back that we're going to start going through, hopefully. Yeah. Super Seamster says, thanks, Jose DD. Keep spitting truth from Bakersfield, California. Thank you, Super Seamster. Appreciate that. Hillary Hinton over on Rumble says, Dirtbags, I had a near-death experience in 2016, but I'm beginning to think that I actually died. This is purgatory, and you all owe me a shit ton of back rent for crashing my hell dimension. Thank you, Hillary Hinton. Eric Rousseau says, in the 50s and 60s, the U.S. Army sprayed zinc cadmium sulfide, a compound containing cadmium, a known carcinogen, in the city of St. Louis. Well, yeah, aren't you going to...
Oh, now you tell me.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Exactly, we should have gone to Tampa. Right? They have a headquarters there.
Should have gone to Boca.
That's right. Done something on Boca. We should have gotten... I think Pasta's from Boca. We could have had Pasta give us a tour of Boca. That would be a funny documentary. That's maybe that's lighter fare. Maybe that for next year, you know. Russ, you said we do a bait and switch. Hey, so thanks for giving us the money for the Uhuru. We decided to do a Pasta
Had
Jardula
to go to
tour of
Boca.
Boca Raton instead. You said you were
almost like a St. Louis tour of the
exactly.
Uhuru House.
It's the same idea,
except completely different.
Except completely different. Yeah. Russ, you said you were reading about French Revolution. I wanted to suggest The Sans Coyotes by Albert Sobel. Thank you for that, Mark Pugliese. Appreciate that. All right, let's get on with things. We got some reads to do tonight, so I'm going to start out here by sharing one project from one of our dissident sponsors. It's called The Grifter's Bible, and it's a mind-bending novel by El Shabooms. It's now a free weekly series on YouTube with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as they combine the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with the state-of-the-art in Michigas to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy decide to put a stop to it. There's ass whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir. It's a picaresque thriller. It's a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's The Grifter's Bible, a film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack, of course, by Monumental Sonic Architecture. A new episode is posted every Monday at youtube.com/@El Shabooms. So you can go to that link right there and subscribe to El Shaboom's YouTube channel and get a new episode every Monday. Tomorrow is Monday, so a new episode will drop there tomorrow. So go give that a subscribe and a listen. If tomorrow's Monday, that means tonight is Sunday, which means we do have a Q&A after the main show over on Rumble. Just a fun reminder. All right, Russell, we can move on to your segment. I'm just going to slide the chair over for the first few seconds. I'll be right back.
Okie doke. All right. So Venice is burning, not literally, but figuratively burning with pro-Palestine sentiment. Here's a little segment from Reuters that they put together ahead of the festival opening.
This year's Venice Film Festival draws stars, directors, and a strong dose of political tension. Israel's war in Gaza is casting a shadow over the Lido. A collective of film industry figures, Venice for Palestine, has urged the festival to take a robust stand over the war in Gaza. It's called on the organisers to promote Palestinian voices and denounce Israeli actions in Gaza. The appeal was signed by more than 1,500 people, including directors such as Ken Loach and Matteo Garrone. Festival director Alberto Barbera told Reuters on Wednesday that Venice welcomed conversation.
We are a cultural institution, a space of confrontation, of debate. It's an open space where all the artists can attend and they can make their speech and their statement and so on.
However, he dismissed calls for Israeli filmmakers and actors to be barred and said, quote, "We will not boycott anyone." The 11-day event commences the awards season with 20.
And he went on to say, in rather stereotypical fashion, "That's a spicy meatball."
Yeah.
Okay,
that's what they do. You know, the big red carpet event. That's what they cater it: meatballs and garlic bread at the Venice Film Festival.
Mut sticks. Yeah,
mut sticks, toasted ravioli, and what's the cheese there in St. Louis?
Provel.
Provel. Yeah, Provel
man.
bites.
You serve that in
Festival.
Italy, they would shoot you on site.
You Provel bites at the Venice Film Festival. They got guys come and hand them out on the little trays. Yeah.
So
toothpicks stuck in them.
Yeah. So good news. Gal Gadot to skip Venice Film Festival amid pro-Palestinian campaign. People need a feel-good story. This whole story is a feel-good story. Gal Gadot will not attend the Venice Film Festival following pro-Palestinian pressures, according to a report by Italian newspaper La Repubblica. The Israeli actress stars in Julian Schnabel's film In the Hands of Dante, alongside Gerard Butler, which screens outside the main competition. She will not accompany the film crew to the event as originally planned. Now, on the one hand, very much like you expect from a former IDF soldier, she seems to be lying. She claims she was never going to go, but this is a very strange choice for somebody who was never going to go to repost this. Gal Gadot reposted this on her Instagram stories. 1,500 members of the Italian film industry signed a petition to disinvite her from the Venice Film Festival. This behavior is abhorrent, and solely because she is Israeli. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so for somebody who wasn't going to go, who didn't decide not to go because she doesn't want to get protested and have red paint thrown at her on her or some shit, this is a pretty funny thing for her to repost.
Gal Gadot disinvited to the Venice Film Festival. 1,500 members of the Italian film industry signed this petition because of her invitation to the festival, as she appears in a featured movie in The Hand of Dante. But the kicker? Gadot has said she wasn't even planning on attending, not to mention her movie has nothing to do with the Middle East. So her crime here is simply being Jewish and Israeli. Apparently the signers of this petition just wanted to proudly display their anti-Israel, anti-Jewish hatred for the hell of it.
Yeah, no, she wasn't planning on going at all.
No.
She wasn't planning on going at all. That's why she put this on her Instagram.
How'd that movie even get in? Movie with Gerard Butler and Gal Gadot. Aren't these movies supposed to be good at the Venice Film Festival? It's supposed to be a good festival, right?
Well, you know, and Julian Schnabel, he's not a bad filmmaker. Why the hell would he cast one of the worst actresses?
Yeah, I thought he was like
of all
base too.
time?
For some reason, I thought his politics were good, and apparently they're not. They're not good enough to deny her a role. He's the guy who made that Diving Bell and the Butterfly movie, which I found depressing and a little boring and a little overrated. But you know, he's got that thing going.
Well, maybe that's his inspiration. Maybe he said, what could be more depressing than to watch a terrible actress try to muddle through a film?
Yeah.
It fit his aesthetic. All right, so this is from Drop Site. Thousands rallied outside the Venice Film Festival to protest Israel's blockade of Gaza, demanding the film industry use its global stage to spotlight Palestinian suffering. Demonstrators estimated at 3,000 to 4,000, what Variety described as perhaps the largest protest ever at a major film event, marched through Venice's Lido, carrying Palestinian flags and banners reading "Stop the Genocide" and "Free Gaza" as police closed roads and stars walked the red carpet just steps away. Organizers said the festival cannot remain neutral while famine and bombardment devastate Gaza. An open letter from the Actors Collective Venice for Palestine urged the Biennale, which organizes the event, to condemn the siege and disinvite pro-Israel stars Gal Gadot and Gerard Butler. Appeals festival leadership has rejected. On the red carpet itself, Franco-Moroccan producer Nabil Ayouk and Moroccan director Mariam Touzani of The Voice of Hind Rajab held up a sign reading "Stop the Genocide in Gaza." More good news on that coming up, but here's a little bit of the march.
That's
And,
actually the line for Emo's Pizza. They're opening a location in Venice. Very, very popular.
I hear they have a wonderful cheese. It's like a Velveeta. So smooth, so smoky. And here are the makers of the Hind Rajab film on the red carpet. I'm gonna take out that sound. So, yeah, after watching the arts community largely silent for all these years, this is very encouraging to see these kinds of actions finally taking place. And here's maybe the best news and the best indicator that the tide in Hollywood is truly turned and people are not cowering from the Zionist producers and studio owners like they did at one time. Venice, Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, Jonathan Glazer, back Gaza. How do you say his name? Joaquin? How do you
He
say
pronounced
it?
It's Joaquin. Joaquin.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah.
Jonathan Glazer, back Gaza drama, the voice of Hind Rajab as executive producers. Hollywood heavyweights, including Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, and Rooney Mara, have come on board Kothar Ben Hania's Gaza set drama, the voice of Hind Rajab, as executive producers, boosting the film's profile ahead of its world premiere and competition at the Venice Film Festival. Also joining the film as executive producers are Dee Garner and Jeremy Kleiner of Pitt's production outfit Plan B, the Zone of Interest director Jonathan Glazer, and Roma filmmaker Alfonso Cuarón. Several high-profile companies, including Britain's Film 4 and Saudi Arabian state-owned group MBC Studio, have also backed the voice of Hind Rajab. It was Film 4 that wound up picking up that documentary that the BBC refused to air, right? I believe.
Was it them? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. The film will premiere in Venice on September 3rd before heading to the Toronto International Film Festival for its North American premiere. The drama reconstructs the events surrounding the killing of 6-year-old Hind Rajab in January 2024. Rajab, traveling by car with her 4 cousins and her aunt and uncle, came under fire from the Israeli military as they tried to flee Gaza City. Ben Hania's film is based on the voice recordings between Hind Rajab and the Red Crescent volunteers who tried to keep her on the line, doing everything they could to get an ambulance to her. Israel claimed it did not have troops in the area where Hind and her family were killed, but investigations using satellite imagery carried out independently by the Washington Post and Sky News have concluded that Israeli tanks were present at the time. See, that's like Gal Gadot wasn't going to go to the festival. London-based research group Forensic Architecture published a detailed investigation in conjunction with Al Jazeera that mapped 335 bullet holes in the car's exterior. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to include that is, can feel very hopeless these days, especially as Israel kind of executes its final solution. Even 6 months ago, I don't think you would have seen that in the Hollywood Reporter. Like, there is a huge sea change in the conversation around this. And I'm seeing almost weekly, I'm seeing that change get more and more momentum. We've been horrified at the cowardice that these celebrities, not all of them, but a lot of them have shown. The fact that you've got such high profile people in the industry standing up like this. And yeah, if you want to say, where were they a year ago, 2 years ago? I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I'm glad that this momentum is finally picking up such speed that you're seeing under a lot of pressure. Macron continuing, by all indications, to back the Palestinian state. The UN meeting in September, it looks like metaphorically is going to be pretty explosive with all of the countries that formerly would not recognize Palestine who are going to do it. And in Hollywood, where again, these people are the biggest cowards, partly because of the nature of the industry, because it's so easy to lose your whole career over just pissing people off. I mean, it's kind of an infamous industry for even petty things. You just can't annoy anybody, or that's it, you're out. So this is a big part of why all of these celebrities have been so visibly cowed about this subject. The fact that so many of them are coming out now, that says a lot.
Yeah, and even a guy like Brad Pitt, who's been pretty staunchly apolitical, he seems to have made it a point to be apolitical, to put his name
like
on
an old school movie star. Really.
Yeah, it's like a Harrison Ford type, persona.
Yeah, who knows how he votes exactly?
Yeah, right. It's not polite to talk religion and politics, blah, 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 one of those. But the fact that he put his name on it is, I think, significant. I mean, I can only imagine that film being brutally difficult to sit through, given the source material and the nature of the story. But I'm sure it's incredibly powerful. And, I mean, we said this, when No Other Land won the Oscar last year, that people should be making films about this all year, every year. Every Oscar ceremony. I mean, we should be seeing stories told about this all year, every year, for the rest of our lives, frankly. And that's how you get a certain perspective into the culture. When it becomes so pervasive that even, apolitical movie stars like Brad Pitt feel like there's no cost to them to, put their name on this. Because when you think about it, people should be blacklisted for supporting Israel. Like what these stars should do next. Okay, if Brad Pitt's such a hot commodity, which I don't know that any movie star is such a hot commodity anymore, they shouldn't work with people who do support this, frankly. That's where the pressure should be applied, not in the other direction. That's insane. And so, the more people do a thing like this, the more that scale kind of tips. And now all of a sudden, okay, people who are pro-Israel are the ones who have to feel uneasy about, is it going to be so easy for me to get a job again? Do people want to watch me? Do people care what I have to say? And that's not discrimination based on who you are. That is a calculation based on your actions and your opinions and the degree to which you seek to influence the world, especially as an artist. I don't care what you have to say as an artist if you support this. You can't possibly say anything of value to the society if you're pro-Israel at this point. And so they should feel pressure. They should feel pressure to, if not put their name on the movie, at least support it however they can. All right, cool. Excuse me. Snork Y2K says, no, not a maglev, the new one. Germany, Japan, and China are doing is much better. Okay to contact me for details. These trains are also extremely safe. Original is the Wuppertal Schwebe. How do you say that? Schwebebahn? Schwebebahn. It's a German thing, right? Danny, thanks for the $5. Keaton, with all that baby making that you love doing so much, Jose just might actually be your baby. He's too old to be my baby, I think. How old is Jose? I think he's only like, I'm only like 11 or 12 years old in him. Vilma Thomas, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell effect for Vilma. Appreciate that, Vilma. Thanks very much for that generous donation. Says, my thanks to your unwavering support for one of the eloquent voices of the Palestinians, Jose Vega. Well, thank you, Vilma. Appreciate that very much. Master Yoda says, join us tomorrow at Northgate Park in Salem, Oregon at 4 p.m. as the Oregon chapter of the American Communist Party hosts a celebration of Labor Day, child and pet friendly. More info at acp.us/join. Oh, yeah, got a Labor Day event tomorrow. That's right. Tomorrow is Labor Day. That's right. Lori Lamb, thanks for the $2. A lot of school shootings are due to indiscriminate psych meds, too. Mark Pugliese says, Patterson is next door to me. I was born there. Good analysis, Jose. Oh, Mark Pugliese from Patterson, New Jersey. Eric Husseau says, Metalhead banging his little head at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey during recent Korn concert was carried out by security. He was filmed working it. Let's see here. EO Shush says, you watch the Cruz, Torres, and Slotkin interviews, then watch Jose Vega interview with you guys and realize they are in Congress and he is not. The only conclusion you can come to is America is regarded. Thank you, EO Shush.
Yep.
Appreciate that very much. All right, we're going to move on to another sponsor of ours tonight. He calls himself a bard and a guitar, and he's got an album out called Dogmatics, which is a musical retelling of the Jonah fable in a modern-day setting. This satire album follows a bard and a guitar tasked by God to help the people of a city whose politics he can't stand, featuring interpretations of All the Girls Go Crazy, No Irish Need Apply, and Love Me, I'm a Liberal. You can find it on most music and streaming platforms by searching for Dogmatics by a bard and a guitar. You can also follow this custom link that we made for a bard and a guitar, which takes you to all of his socials. So check out the sites and check out the music. That's Dogmatics is the album by a bard and a guitar. Okay. All right, Russ, we're going to go right into tariffs.
Okay. Is this light looking a little murder scene-y?
I mean, it looks fine.
No, it's fine.
It got dark there quick.
It did, yeah.
It's like the sun just falls out of the sky
yeah.
in St. Louis. It doesn't set. It just like just plops. Like it was like it looked like daylight like 5 minutes ago. And now you're right. Now it's like dark.
It gets logy from the Provel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do something that we very rarely do. We're going to use a clip from Fox for news value. Really, they played this pretty straight. Breaking tonight, just moments ago, a federal appeals court ruled most of President Trump's tariffs are illegal. Really, they just reported it. They didn't even have a meltdown. Probably the meltdown was afterwards, but this part, it's okay.
Tonight, just moments ago, actually, a federal appeals court ruled most of President Trump's tariffs are illegal. The court is saying the president exceeded his authority in imposing those levies. There's a catch, though, in this ruling. Correspondent David Smunt has details tonight, breaking just minutes ago. Good evening, David.
Brett, good evening. The catch is that the tariffs can stay in place until October 14th. That's when the mandate from the circuit court, the federal circuit court appeals decision actually kicks in. This was a 127-page decision that just came down within the last 30 minutes. We're reading it, but it finds that most of the president's tariffs are unconstitutional. This was published to the public docket, as I said, within the last few minutes. Now, the panel found that the tariffs on nearly every country were not authorized, Brett, by the International Emergency Economic Powers Act and therefore are illegal. The court writing today unanimously, the statute bestows significant authority on the president to undertake a number of actions in response to a declared national emergency. But none of these actions explicitly include the power to impose tariffs, duties, or the like, or the power to tax. Now, arguments were recently held in Washington, D.C. This gives the administration the green light to go directly here to the U.S. Supreme Court, which we expect to happen very soon. We've not.
Okay, it's like a straight news piece. That was like actual news.
Old school.
Yeah, old school, old time hockey. They didn't have a meltdown. Nobody started like tearing up the set and kicking the couches or anything. It was it's just like news, you know. So Attorney General Pam Bondi here. POTUS Trump found there was a national emergency and took action under the law by imposing tariffs. The judges of the federal circuit are interfering with the president's vital and constitutionally central role in foreign policy. This decision is wrong and undermines the United States on the world stage. The Justice Department will appeal this decision and continue to fight to restore the president's lawful authority. Now, okay, if you think I was being selective in showing you the typical responses to this, go look up this tweet and you will find that 99% of the responses are to this effect. Now, that's what I call a distraction from the Epstein files. And another one, then I have it on my desk. Now there is no Epstein client list. It is like every response to that. And pretty much every time she pops her head up, this is what she gets. She's really a laughing stock. She was always a disgrace as Attorney General. But now it's just so obvious that she's nothing but a shill. And so many of the people who looked the other way on her clear incompetence and the fact that she's completely compromised, has no independence from the administration, they were willing to look the other way as long as she was going to release the Epstein list. Now, no, she gets no grace from anybody now. I don't know why anybody gets next to Donald Trump. It always ends badly for them. He just sails away from all the disasters, but it's always pretty career destroying for anyone who gets associated with him.
Yep.
So speaking of, all tariffs are still in effect. Today, a highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said that our tariffs should be removed. But they know the United States of America will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for the country. It would make us financially weak, and we have to be strong. Everyone see that? Everyone see how China just literally rolled out the red carpet for Russia coming to visit along with other foreign dignitaries. Yeah, it's making us very, very strong. The USA will no longer tolerate enormous trade deficits and unfair tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers imposed by other countries, friend or foe, that undermine our manufacturers, farmers, and everyone else. If allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America, and that's my job. At the start of this Labor Day weekend, we should all remember that tariffs are the best tool to help our workers and support companies that produce great made in America products. Unlike my phones are made in China. For many years, tariffs were allowed to be used against us by our uncaring and unwise politicians. Now, with the help of the United States Supreme Court, we will use them to the benefit of our nation and make America rich, strong, and powerful again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, just a couple of headlines of how incredibly we're doing now with these tariffs. Core inflation rose to 2.9% in July, highest since February. This is exactly what Powell and other economists have been saying, that the effects of these tariffs will filter into the economy and get gradually worse over time. So you're starting to see some indication of that. And this is just great in a gig economy where a lot of people make their money off of these, small online shops. End of de minimis shipping could be biggest Trump tariff for for many U.S. businesses. Starting Friday, President Trump's elimination of the de minimis shipping exemption that allowed low-value packages to arrive in the U.S. without trade duties went into effect. These shipments represent 92% of all cargo arriving to the U.S., up to 4 million packages daily. And the loss of their duty-free status could result in new costs to small to medium-sized businesses, estimated as high as $71 billion. So yeah, if you have a small crafts business, if you have one of these online stores, you're screwed. You're screwed. And a lot of people, because the economy is the way it is, a lot of people rely on those kinds of little gigs and online businesses now. This is really going to screw over.
Americans don't like making crafts. They want to work in factories for $18 an hour.
I just got to say, I mean, this is a whole other subject. But if you had shown the New Deal generation that one day the idea of empowering the working class would be to put them back in the factories,
right?
That their grandchildren would be fighting to get put back into factory work, they wouldn't believe it. An appeals court said Trump couldn't levy his tariffs. What happens now? This is from WAPO. A federal appeals court ruled 7-4 on Friday that President Donald Trump's tariffs were illegal and that he did not have the authority to impose most of his broad tariffs on foreign products from across the globe. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit upheld a lower court decision that Trump overstepped his authority when imposing most of his tariffs. Despite the ruling, Trump's tariffs will be allowed to remain in effect for now to allow time for an appeal. If Trump's tariffs are annulled, the Trump administration has other ways to impose them, such as through the 1974 Trade Act. That particular law, however, restricts tariffs to 15% and 150 days unless such period is extended by act of Congress. A lower court will also reconsider part of the case on whether the government should refund tariffs to all companies that already paid them or just the parties that sued the government. Yeah, so about that. From Phil Magnus. Trump DOJ 52925. The plaintiffs don't suffer any irreparable harm if the court stays its ruling against tariffs because the government can always just refund everyone if we lose the appeal. Trump DOJ 81125. Just kidding. We can't afford to pay anything back if we lose. And here are those two different stances depending on what was convenient at the time. When they were arguing to the court, no, don't suspend the tariffs. We could just pay the money back later. They said a stay would not harm plaintiffs who can be made whole through a refund, including interest, if tariffs paid during these appeals are ultimately held unlawful. And now they're arguing the president believes that our country would not be able to pay back the trillions of dollars that other countries have already committed to pay, which could lead to financial ruin. And here's another example of how Pam Bondi is an absolute disgrace to the office. The countries aren't paying it. We are. Our businesses are paying it. These countries are not paying tariffs. This is a legal filing from the Department of Justice that simply parrots the political talking points of the administration. You know, attorney generals are by definition supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to be sitting there in adoration of the great leader in cabinet meetings. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, or they're not supposed to be their junkyard dog to go after, whoever the dear leader wants them to, which is the other thing she does.
Right. The court ruled that Trump overstepped his authority in using the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose most of his tariffs. The IEEPA is an emergency law that has been used to impose economic sanctions in the case of threats against the country. The Trump administration has argued that the U.S. trade deficit constitutes an emergency that justifies the use of the law. But that was challenged by a group of state governments and small businesses. In the Friday ruling, a majority of federal judges said that the law, quote, bestows significant authority on the president to undertake a number of actions in response to a declared national emergency, but none of these actions explicitly include the power to impose tariffs, duties, or the like, or the power to tax. It noted that when drafting IEEPA, Congress did not use the term tariff or any of its synonyms like duty or tax, and that other statutes indicate that whenever Congress intends to delegate to the president the authority to impose tariffs, it does so explicitly, either by using unequivocal terms like tariff and duty, or via an overall structure which makes clear that Congress is referring to tariffs. In a post on social media, Trump called the court a highly partisan appeals court. The 11 judges who heard the case were named by presidents from both parties. The dissenting opinion was written by a judge nominated by President Barack Obama. So that was the person who actually ruled in Trump's favor, who wrote that opinion. So Trump's lying even about that. This is why when you get a kind of crackpot leader like this, when you get this kind of a fascist nationalist, they're always surrounded by incompetence, because for them it's an opportunity. Nobody with a meaningful shot at a legitimate career would debase themselves the way Pam Bondi does for this president. And that's true of everyone around him. It's a mix of very greedy oligarchs who see him as a useful idiot for their agenda, people like Pigman, Lutnick, and Besant. And then you have people like Pam Bondi who are, basically crackpot losers who could never really get a job outside a state like Florida, being elevated to attorney general because nobody of better quality than Pam Bondi would take that job with the strings that are attached to it when you're doing it for Trump. It was very obvious to anybody. You didn't have to be a legal scholar, much less attorney general, to understand that declaring the right to impose sweeping, economy-changing tariffs on the basis of a national emergency was not going to hold up to any kind of meaningful legal scrutiny. If we had a Congress that was prepared to invoke its rights, it wouldn't have gotten this far. Congress would have argued, well, no, you can't. That's a tax. You're not allowed to do that. They would have tried to enjoin these actions. The fact that the entire country is going to have to suffer for these policies, and again, we talked about this a little bit with Jose. You could definitely make an argument for strategic tariffs as a means of rebuilding the industrial base of the country, but not without an industrial policy. There's no industrial policy here. There's just the imposition of tariffs as a substitute for a meaningful economic policy.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about, because, and this is going to seem like a non sequitur at first, but stick with me. When we covered the farmers market in North St. Louis, which is a deindustrialized, pretty much abandoned neighborhood, part of North St. Louis, extreme poverty, desperation, deprivation. And then you said that how you talked about how, for contrast, you went to a farmer's market in the more gentrified part of town to just look at how the other half lives. And the way the other half lives is sort of oblivious to the plight of the north side of the city. That can kind of be a metaphor. Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is kind of an analogy for this, because the only thing I could think of is that Trump and people who surround him just live in a world where the consequences of these tariffs are just, out of sight, out of mind. Like, do they not understand that the country is in no shape to take this on? Is that whole reality something they are just completely blind to? You almost think they'd have to be to even push forward with this, as if this makes good political sense, or is it just a power grab and a money grab for the oligarchs? I don't understand, because it just seems like there is such a disconnect between the reality of what this country is and what it is prepared to take on in the short term, and this tariff policy, which is so clearly going to make worse the very problems that Trump was largely elected to solve, inflation being really at the top of the list. And his numbers on inflation among independents are worse than Biden's. And it's not a surprise that they'd be worse than Biden's. You have to ask, are they so unacquainted with ordinary people that they are just oblivious to the harm this will cause them? Or do they just not care? Or a little bit of both? I'm not sure.
I think that their logic, at best, assuming that they actually care about putting people back to work and reindustrializing the country, which I don't think is a great bet, but assuming that that's true, at best, what they're thinking is, yes, it's going to take a lot of sacrifices and hardship to reindustrialize the country, and that's a price that you're just going to have to be willing to pay.
Right. But not understanding that,
well, they're not going to pay it.
Well, they're not going to pay it, and there's no room further to fall for so many of these places.
Right.
Look at a city like St. Louis. Can they withstand this? How? Detroit? How? These are already ghost towns, Buffalo, right? I mean, just look at the. I mean, they call it the Rust Belt for a reason. Like, can these places endure, even if it is just a short-term struggle, which I don't buy that it will be just a short, because we're nowhere close, as Jose was talking about earlier. We're nowhere close to being able to pick up the slack here. So yeah, it just seems like a completely destructive policy, which is why, you know, going back to what Jose was talking about this just collapse in confidence in voting, right? Talked about that Irish woman who came up and started crying because she voted for Trump, thinking maybe he'll end the wars, and now she doesn't want to support anybody. She gave to Jose because he's running as an independent. This is why I think you're seeing Democrats win these special elections. They just won another one in Iowa. A seat that they hadn't carried in 13 years just went blue by a lot, because I think most people are at this point so depressed that if it's a battle of the bases, in other words, which stupid base is more enthusiastic, well, you add together Epstein, you add together all the broken promises of Trump, and then you get, you know, a lib base that is still energized compared to that. I think that's how you get these results that you're seeing, where despite this total collapse of confidence in the system, you're seeing Democrats just kind of win by default because of the way this administration has governed in just a completely destructive and bad faith way. You know, now one of the, you know, by Tuesday, hopefully, the Alligator Alcatraz jail will be empty. That's another example. I mean, you talk about a metaphor for how this administration just took a political win and squandered it. Alligator Alcatraz is a perfect example of that, right? That now they're having to retreat fully on that. No, they have completely blown it in a way that I've never seen any administration blow it this bad, this quick. I really haven't.
Well, I mean, that's what we've been saying. This is for the oligarchs. They've got an opportunity. They have the whole government. They have the Supreme Court. They're going to go for it, man. They lose elections later. Doesn't matter, man. What Besant wants, what Lutnick wants, what the people behind them want, that's fulfilled. What Thiel wants, what all these Silicon Valley oligarchs want. Once they get that, they don't care if the Republicans get voted out. What, the Democrats are going to change it?
Right, they're going to change it, right, exactly.
And that's, you can, I mean, there's a little bit of a digression, but since you mentioned it, you can cut it from the clip. But yeah, what Keaton was talking about, you know, having traveled around the country so much the last couple of years, every city is two different cities. Every city is a tale of two cities. I mean, I'm sure there are places that I haven't gone to, like probably I go right across the river to East St. Louis. There's probably no gentrified part of East St. Louis. It's probably just East St. Louis. It's rough. But most places you go, St. Louis, Buffalo, New Orleans, it's two different worlds, man. It's two different worlds. You can go to New Orleans and literally find roads that they have gone so long without paving that they're dirt roads. And you can go a few blocks over, man, and it's nice. You know, it's the Marigny, you know, very nice houses, very well maintained. Even in St. Louis. So we go where Uhuru has its farmers market. That's a rundown neighborhood, a lot of abandoned houses, abandoned buildings. You go to the Soulard Farmers Market, which is the oldest west of the Mississippi. That neighborhood's nice, and it has the cute little cafes and, you know, wine and books, you know, all of that. And this is part of why libs do not understand the anger in the country, because you have to remember, for a lot of those people, that's the only America they really live in. Like they get that things are hard for people out there, but it's really an abstraction, man.
Right.
Like for them, things are good. And for the people, they know things are good. And, you know, if they're libs, which in those areas they usually are, even if you bring up the iniquities in the system, they see themselves as the good guys fighting against those things with their placid Melba-toast platitudes and incrementalism.
Right. Exactly. All right, Jake, can we hit the scroll, please? Thank you very much. So, hey, folks, like Chairman O'Malley said, he gave a shout out to our supporters, our members. You could be one of those cool kids by signing up at dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack and /locals. Membership starts at just $5 a month, gets you all kinds of perks, gets you movie club live streams, which we did have to reschedule this August one because our film schedule got so chaotic with the rescheduling because of the illness. Today's shoot was about 6 hours. We got another 5-hour shoot tomorrow. So for that reason, we did have to reschedule August Film Club, but you will get two in September. You also get a post-game live stream once a month where we do members-only segments plus call-in Q&A. You get a call-in Q&A once a week, so you get to talk to us quite a bit every Sunday night on Rumble after the main show. Hey, tonight is Sunday, so we will be going over for Q&A after the show this evening. You also get ad-free versions of every live stream emailed to you the day after they air live. So if you miss a show and you want to watch it back free of ad interruption, you can do so by clicking the link that we email you the day after every show, so you get to watch it back ad-free as if you're watching it live. So those are the perks. You also get your name up in lights here on the show scroll, plus the goodwill of supporting independent media and enabling us to do projects like the Uhuru documentary. Obviously, our Give, Send, Go donors tremendously helpful as well. But obviously, we don't pay ourselves at all to do these films. So none of the funds that we raise go towards paying ourselves. The membership is what gives us the stability to be able to go and do this without paying ourselves, basically. So the membership is the bedrock of the operation. We couldn't do it without members. And so we thank you all very much for your support. That's dudissidents.com/Patreon /Substack /locals. All paid members will get a credit at the end of the Uhuru documentary. Just like we gave you a credit at the end of the Jose Vega doc, we shout out the patrons in the end credits of all of our film projects. So that is one added perk of that as well. All right. Let's see here. Dedamod says, help your favorite up-and-coming creators in YouTube Partner Program get more views and reach new fans by hyping their new long-form videos up to 3 times each week at no cost. Oh, is that what it is? Okay, so you get like 3 hype credits, and you get to dole them out as you see fit. Nice. All right. Thanks for clarifying that, Dedamod. They are putting on a play in Venice called Waiting for Godot. I get it. Ha ha. I like that. My real name says, hi, Russ. I'll be in New York for a week. Best non-tourist pastrami and pizza. I mean, in New York, the best pastrami happens to be the touristy spot.
Yeah. I mean, it just is. Katz's.
Yeah.
Pizza, I always recommend the Nona Slice at Bleecker Street Pizza.
Yes, the Nona Slice at Bleecker Street is great, and that's not really touristy.
No.
I love Prince Street
The tourists
pizza.
don't really know about it.
I love Prince Street pizza. I love those square slices, and I kind of discovered them before they became a phenomenon. Back when I used to do tours, you used to be able to like sit in there and eat it. It was not that. Now, forget it, line around the block. But Prince Street pizza is a little different from the traditional New York slice. They're the Soho Square, they call them. But man, those Soho Squares, those are good.
But
those are good.
That's not all they do. Prince
No, they
Street
do
pizza.
other stuff.
They
too.
do traditional pizza.
But the Soho Square is delicious.
Well, you know the backstory on Prince Street Pizza.
Yeah, it was the old Ray's Pizza guy, right?
That was the old Ray's Pizza, and Ray, his actual name was Ralph Cuomo, and he was a soldier in the Lucchese crime family. The real business of the pizzeria was heroin distribution, which they would hide as bags of flour. When eventually they got busted, they called it the Pizza Connection. But it just so happened, like a lot of Italians, he was just a great untrained cook. So the pizza got famous. That was kind of an accident.
Huh. Interesting. I did not know that. Let's see here. Mark, thanks for the $2, says, must read graphic novel, They Want You Dead. AMZN. Is that amazing? Or on Amazon? Lorian Brightbill.
They Want You Dead?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Lorian Brightbill, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate that. David Webb says the global Sumad flotilla set sail from Madrid today with U.S. veteran Greg Stoker on board. They're expecting 50-plus ships to join them along their way to Gaza to break the siege. Oh, wow.
I think that's the one Carsey Blanton is on.
Carsey Blanton is on. Who else is going on? One, I think. I forget. I saw somebody talk about. I think Greta's going again. Right? Isn't she going on another one? And then there's somebody else. There's somebody else. I forget who. They said that they were going on there as well. All right. Hey, folks, we are at 873 likes. All right. Smash that like button, everybody. Smash that subscribe button over here on YouTube. Coming up on 115,000 YouTube subscribers. You should be there pretty soon. So let's see if we can make it there. We're 114,925. So let's see if we can make 115.
Yep.
Smash that subscribe button if you're not there. What's that?
Carsey Blanton.
Oh, she's gone. Oh,
That's
she's
her
boarding.
Instagram.
All right. Beautiful. A shout out to her. Absolutely. All right, folks. We're going to move right on along here. All right. This is kind of a sequel segment. We remember this. Taylor Lorenz had a big scoop. Dark money group is secretly funding high-profile Democratic influencers. We just did a segment on this. We dropped the clip yesterday, so go check that out. But the long and short of it is you got these Democrat influencers getting paid up to $8,000 a month to support, quote-unquote, their channels. Among them is a very successful up-and-comer, as they say, David Pakman. David Pakman's been in the business a long time. Ken Klippenstein points out David Pakman is secretly getting paid to shill for the Democratic Party. He's not the only person that we shout out, if you will, in this segment, but he will be the first because he issued a defiant response saying the left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does.
For years, I've been saying the left needs to organize independent media in the way that the right has been doing. The left needs to fund independent creators the way that the right does. The right has won even arguably presidential elections because they're organized with regard to online and independent media. They're killing us. We've been so behind. And this kind of support for creators is exactly what I've been advocating for.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot you could say about this. Number one, the right is always going to have an advantage in the media space because there's more money on the right than there is on the left, broadly speaking. Number two, and this is, I think, a more important point to make in this context, the right-wing influencers that get funding are the ones who pull the Republican Party to the right. Right? They are the ones who move the party to the right. Think of any high-profile anti-MAGA influencer in the last 10 years. I'm sure you don't know their names because they either bent the knee, like Mark Levin did, who is not exactly an influencer, more of a radio host, or they became sort of never-Trump Democrats like the Lincoln Project people. Yeah. Right? Where the money is on the right is in the MAGA space, which is pulling the party further to the right, whether it's Dave Rubin or Tim Pool or any of these people. What do? They move the party to the right. They are not designed to curb the excesses of the conservative movement. They are designed.
It's so easy. It's so easy. Right. All you got to do is say, raise your hand if you like Sydney Sweeney. Cha-ching!
Right.
$1,000 right there.
Exactly. So that's a big difference, right? Is that on the right, the money goes towards pulling the party further to the right, moving the Overton window from Mitt Romneyism to Donald Trumpism. On the quote-unquote left, what do you notice about all these people who are getting this money? They're doing the exact opposite. Their job is to pull the party toward the center, quote-unquote, right? We use that. With certain contempt.
Well, and also just the whole argument that he's making is an argument for corruption because you're not simply talking about being sponsored. You're talking about being secretly sponsored.
Right. Not disclosing.
Which, yes, does happen on the right. Absolutely. Nick Sorter exposed that with Sodagate, and I'm sure that is the tip of the iceberg given how easy it was to bribe these people sight unseen.
Right.
If
well,
they
look at the tenant media thing. I mean, I don't really agree with the Russiagating around that, but still, it's like you're taking a bunch of money without disclosing it. Yeah.
So you're not arguing, yes, the DNC openly gives me money and I openly take it and I openly disclose it. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't really have a problem with that in principle. Like, that's at that point you're informed, and if you take this person seriously, that's okay. I mean, you're doing so with full knowledge of where their funding is coming from. You're talking about secret funding. That's the crux of the issue.
Yes, that is the crux of the issue from an ethical standpoint. And from a political standpoint, I think it's important to notice a pattern. These are all the neoliberal centrists who get paid by the party to keep the left in line.
Right.
Case in point, here's David Pakman on October 20th, 2023. Boy, did this age like milk. Hamas appears to bomb their own hospital. Israel blamed. So here is Pakman claiming, no, Israel never bombed a hospital. Cut to 2 years later, now all the hospitals in Gaza are damaged, if not gone entirely. But here he is. So this is what you get paid to do if you're David Pakman.
Democratic countries who, if they make a mistake or lie, are subject to negative consequences, saying this wasn't Israel. They've released information, radar, audio, video. Internal assessments agree this was not Israel. On the other hand, you have a terrorist authoritarian group with no checks and balances and no consequences for lying, saying it was Israel. And if you don't believe that there's no consequences to lying, there are still members of Congress who on Monday tweeted Israel killed 500 people at a Gaza.
Oh, that's Rashida Tlaib. That's a Democrat. So you're getting paid a lot of money to what? Attack the Democrats who are not sufficiently pro-Israel. See, that's where you get money if you are a quote-unquote left influencer. They don't give Blakely that kind of money, right? They give David Pakman this money.
The Gaza hospital.
Yeah, she didn't get
now
that
that
offer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's abundantly clear that it wasn't Israel. They have not deleted their tweets. Some of them have even doubled down.
Yeah, who has the benefit of hindsight now, David? Interesting that in October of 2023, David Pakman seems to deny that Israel struck a hospital. I'd like to ask him for an updated take on that. Maybe he should take this video down. Maybe he should go and take this video down. That's interesting. Here's Olivia.
You know what I also don't understand? Why couldn't you fund David Pakman openly? Is there a single person that would watch David Pakman who would be turned off by him openly taking money from the Democratic Party?
That's true. Like, why would you have to do it secretly? It seems like people who are okay with watching his stuff would be totally fine with the understanding that he's getting paid. Right?
You're talking about people who find that stimulating, who find David Pakman stimulating.
Exactly.
You're fine. You could just write him a check over the table.
Yeah, why not? Why not? But he wasn't the only one. Olivia Giuliana, she was the one who was in charge of that $20 million mail voter outreach program that they ended up shuttering pretty quickly for reasons I can't figure out. But
I don't get it.
Yeah, he or she issues a response to Taylor Lorenz. We're not going to watch this whole thing, but we'll watch enough of it to get the gist.
Sort of frustrating. Everyone is willing to just believe lies.
The article that Taylor Lorenz wrote about me and a number of other content creators who are part of the Chorus cohort is filled with factual inaccuracies. First and foremost, we are not paid to make content. We are not paid by the Democratic Party. Chorus does not have any creative control over any of the content that I make, over any of the people that I talk to, and they have never and will never tell me what I can or cannot say. The contract that we sign does not pay us for content. It is the same as somebody giving seed money to a small business to build their infrastructure so that that business can go on to be self-sustaining in the future.
That is essentially, I could tell you as someone who did this show for 4 years for free before we made a dime at it, that seed money is tantamount to paying you for content because it's helping you support yourself while you make the content. That's the same.
Right.
Like if someone had given us seed money, right? If someone had given us what are they getting, $8,000 a month? If someone had said, "Here's
well,
$8,000
that's the
a month,"
top. They're not
That's the
all
top.
getting it, but she would probably get the top because she's one of the more high-profile people.
Like I said, we made nothing for the first 4 years we did this. So let's say someone came to us and said, "We'll give you $1,000 a month seed money." That would have been huge. That would have been huge for the first 3 years of this. Big because see, independent media means you build it yourself. Doesn't mean you get seed money. And second, on this point, I mean, Taibbi writes about this a lot. This is a common deflection, from people who say, "Well, no, they don't tell me what to say. They just give me money." Well, they give you that money because they already like what you have to say. Right? I mean, they select you based on what you say. They don't need to exert creative control over you. They're giving you money because they like what you're saying. So it's tacit, right? They don't have to order you around. Like Taibbi says, you work in a newsroom, you see who gets promoted and who doesn't. People who toe a certain line advance. People who don't. So it's really not an argument to say, well, I never get marching orders from them, so therefore you can't really say this is a corrupt arrangement. That's just kind of a chicken shit point, I think.
Yeah, would you still get that money if you threw on the MAGA hat tomorrow?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or if you wore a keffiyeh tomorrow.
Or if you wore a keffiyeh, if you became virulently pro-Zionist.
Right.
Is effectively what Chorus is. It offers small creators and content creators technical trainings and operational guidance on how to build their own long-term self-sustainable platforms. If you want to get into the weeds about all of those things, you can go watch the videos that were posted by Elizabeth Booker Houston and Ali O'Brien. By the way, two people who are part of this cohort who have been consistently critical of the Democratic Party since all of this started, which debunks the other claim you have, which is that we have to be nice and uncritical of the Democratic Party. It might be easy to convince people on the outside and to convince other creators that the things that you're saying about 1630 and about Omidyar and about journalism are all true. Unlike a lot of other creators and people on the outside, I have experience in the nonprofit world, the nonprofit compliance world, and in journalism, which is why I am absolutely dumbfounded that your article was even published in the first place.
I don't know.
I think it's time for you to start to seriously consider salads.
Yeah. The findings seem to be pretty well sourced and well corroborated. Case in point here's Olivia Giuliana, who in February of this year just wants to be very clear. I want to be extremely clear here. I am a liberal. I am a center-left, New Dem Caucus neoliberal Democrat. You don't have to like me, agree with me, or follow me, and I don't have to be what anyone else wants me to be on the platform I built. If you want to be a leftist, go ahead. That's your right and your business. But just because I'm young or Latina or a woman doesn't mean I have to fit into the mold anyone else expects me to. Well, you fit a certain mold, all right? And that is why you get this money.
Yeah, it's
just
a
like
pretty big
Pakman.
mold, Ralphie boy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, it worked out for her, though. Chorus cut her loose, but she got hired to write the next Star Wars trilogy by Disney.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It'll all work out in the end. So once again, selecting a certain type of New Democrat. That's what this is. That is what this is. If this were really about going after the right, I think people might be a bit more forgiving. It's still kind of sleazy. But this is really about going after the left, is what this is really about.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really what this is. It's a way of silencing the left flank of the party and sort of the progressive movement more broadly. Brian Taylor Cohen. Creators get a stipend for being in the program and attending trainings. Chorus doesn't police anyone's content. Do you expect every tweet and video to be preceded by FYI, I am part of a scholarship program where I learn tips on optimizing my content? Yeah, scholarship program.
Scholarship.
When you
They
reach
want to give you guys $8,000 a month, not to boost a certain type of content.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you reach a certain level of the game, like Brian Tyler Cohen, I don't know how many subscribers he's got on YouTube, but it's quite a bit. YouTube sets you up with someone who can optimize your channel and like we have a YouTube rep now. We have a manager now who helps us with this. You don't need to take $8,000 a month or up to $8,000 a month from this dark money group, which is not doing so much algorithm optimization as coaching, as they say. So finally, here is Blakely giving her take on yet another one of these influencers who were just recently exposed.
Says that you are totally independent and totally not coordinating or communicating with the Democratic power structures, then reposting a literal congresswoman to go, great point, comrade, let's get back to work. I don't know why he thought this helped. I mean, I guess it depends on whose audience. Like, if you're doing it for the Democratic Party bootlickers who are literally going to get on here and act like Republicans and attack journalists because they're mad that their fave got exposed for not disclosing money they were being paid, okay, then I understand. But who else does this look good to? This looks like coordination. Raquel on Twitter pointed it out. Jasmine Crockett is the same one who defended that too raw, too real guy after he was rightfully criticized for calling Rashida Tlaib and AOC bitches, after he was rightfully called out for calling Bernie Sanders a fake Jew, after he was called out for using Emmett Till's casket to wish for Bernie's death. No, he did the Emmett Till comparison again, only this time he compared himself to Emmett Till. And Taylor Lorenz exposing this undisclosed dark money, she in the story is Caroline Bryan Dunham. Spent the better part of the last 2 years attacking college students and denying war crimes by Israel. And then some of them put out basically the same coordinated statement where they're saying it was debunked, even though it wasn't. Both of these people are millionaires and we don't know what other money they haven't disclosed. And then they're both asking for money, like the shamelessness.
So what Blakely is talking about here is Jasmine Crockett apparently saying that this is a fake story, that it's debunked, right? And this is a common deflection too, to just say something, just to call something fake news. Very MAGA, by the way. That's a very Trumpian tactic, is to just say, well, it's fake. It's funny how they couldn't all get on message, because you got like half of these people are saying it's fake news, it's debunked, and then the other half are being like, yeah, so what? It's just a scholarship program. Like, they just mentor us. This is not, we don't get rich off of this. Like, you got half people denying it and half the people just like minimizing it by saying, yeah, it's true, so what? Yeah, I mean, look, what this story really is, it kind of illustrates just how these media ecosystems work on each side, because, and this is, like I said, going back to the beginning, this is why the right will always have an advantage over the left, because the right can afford to push their supporters in a more right-wing direction, because that is ultimately in the direction of corporate power. Whereas if the left side of the aisle, the Democrat influencers, push their supporters too far left, well, that becomes a threat to corporate power.
Right.
And that is ultimately why these two things will never quite work the same way. Republican mega donors, if they see a certain cultural shift or a certain momentum to be gained politically by moving the party further to the right, they can do so at little to no risk to their bottom line. Because what is MAGA? MAGA is ultimately in the service of corporate power. Whereas on the left, even a guy like Bernie and Mamdani, even those guys are out of bounds. And those are modest social democrats, right? Those are not revolutionary socialists and communists. Those are just social democrats. You talk about paid leave, right? Talk about tuition-free public college, right? I mean, you're talking about nothing.
Things that the rest of the Western world takes for granted.
Exactly. Things that the rest of the Western world takes for granted, those are so anathema to the Democratic donor class that not only do they not fund them, they fund people like Pakman and like Olivia Giuliana in order to subvert that wing of the party. So for Pakman to say, well, if the right does this, it's time the left does it. No, it's a completely different game. It's a completely different game on the right, because right-wing politics is ultimately pro-capitalist, whereas if you push the left too far, it starts costing the capitalists some money.
Yeah. If you look at all of this big picture, if you look at where we are with the independent media, it was pretty inevitable that it wasn't going to stay independent for long, because the money wasn't going to allow it.
Right.
And very few people have the integrity to turn it down. We've taken quite a few shots at Joe Rogan's really allowing himself to become the unofficial mouthpiece of Silicon Valley oligarchs. But I've also made the point, I don't know if you're at that level, if they would not make a point of taking you down if you didn't join. It's like the mob. You have to join somebody's family.
Right.
He could go be a Democrat prostate massager. But they went after him for not being woke. So he went with these guys, right? Like, could you not go with any guys at that level of the game without them destroying your career? Maybe not. Maybe not. I might even say probably not. But you, as a consumer of this media, you have to remember most of the people you see at this point, it's not like the Wild West days on YouTube 15 years ago. Most of the people you see now are getting paid by somebody. You look at, we got into it a lot with Kyle and Crystal in the last election. Between elections, they're always much better because there's no horse in the race, and that's part of their job. Watch what happens when another election comes around. You watch how fast they sheepdog you right back into the Democratic Party. Right now, yeah, Crystal's doing good stuff. She always does good stuff until the election comes. And then, they're going to try to distract you with Crystal Lady or whatever the fuck. And then eventually sheepdog you back into the Democratic Party.
Right. Exactly. All right. Matrix says, have a drink on me, Sphincter Knucklebuster. Thanks for the $9.99, Matrix. Todd S. says they are recycling the same BS talking points that Clinton used to justify the new Democrats taking big money to level the playing field. Exactly. Same BS, different generation. Thank you, Todd. Uncommon Magic says, who's going to tell Pakman Democrats aren't the left? Thank you, Uncommon Magic. Where we go? Brandon Guillory says, Katzenberger shaking his first at dropping millions on TYT while these schmucks sell out for a bag of donuts and coupons to Sizzler. Yeah, exactly. Uncommon Magic, seed money for plants. BTC and Pakman will be signing IDF bombs next week. Dorian Marquise, thanks for the $4.99. Olivia was paid to be in the pie eating contest and Stand By Me. God, that was so evil and unnecessary. Thank you, Dorian Marquise. Killer Hitton says, you dirtbags need to randomly capitalize words in Holden Caulfield quotes and have Russell read them in his Trump voice. I'd buy that for $1. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thanks, Killer Hinton. I Am the Owl says, I wish Americans were as obsessed with ending genocide and wars as much as they are with Cracker Barrel, or at least as much as Chud Like Kirk is about Taylor Swift's uterus and reproductive capacity. Yes, good point. I Am the Owl. Appreciate that. Ravid Lass says, hate to be that guy, but I got to correct you on the pronunciation. It's David Hackman. While we're at it, Sham Cedar, Kyle Kuklinski, and Ho Kana. Thank you, Ravid Lass. Appreciate that. All righty, folks. We are going to do one more segment on the evening, and then we are going over to Rumble for the Q&A. So you could join us over there at dudissidents.com/Rumble. 2 hours and 20 minutes. Not bad. These shows will be a little bit shorter than usual while we are doing this documentary, because we were filming for 7 hours today before we went on the air with about an hour turnaround. So
that's what we have. Eric, who came out to help us.
Yeah, I got a shout out. Eric, I was going to do that at the end, but let's do it now. Yeah. So go ahead.
He was very surprised when I was like, yeah, we got to wrap up, man. I'm going to do the show now. He's like, you guys are doing the show. How hard do you guys work? How much content do you guys produce? You never take a break. It's like, now James Brown's dead. We're the hardest working men in show business.
Yes. Yeah, we got about 20 clips up this week, despite the schedule. But, Eric has been a rock star. Eric flew in and helped us with the shoot today, and he'll be helping out tomorrow. So shout out to Eric for helping us out. We should give Eric a call-in link. He should maybe call in if he wants, maybe on Tuesday night.
He should.
Tuesday afternoon. That would be fun. All right. So let's do one more segment on the night. All right, folks, this is kind of a fun one. We're going to kind of end on a light note. we like to keep track of trends in terms of language and culture, and some big cultural news this week. I think it might be time to finally retire the phrase "you can indict a ham sandwich," because apparently you can't indict a ham sandwich so easily. Not so easy to indict a ham sandwich nowadays. The man who threw the sandwich, a federal officer in D.C., is now charged with a misdemeanor assault. Why? Because federal prosecutors initially sought to secure felony charges against the man dubbed Sandwich Guy, but a grand jury declined to return an indictment. So the era of indicting ham sandwiches is over. That's right. The grand jury said, no, we are not indicting this drunken sandwich-throwing douchebag on felony charges. But just to replay the scene of the crime, here is Kash Patel on the night this happened, or the day after, rather. The FBI arrested this individual last night. He has been charged with felony assault on a federal officer. Here it is. Oh, why is the volume is not even available for this clip? I don't know why. That's weird. But anyway, you get the you get the picture.
I love this guy.
This guy, look, he throws it, runs away. Oh God. Oh, what a guy. What a guy. That guy, by the way, who you're looking at, remember, this is who Pam Bondi said was the deep state. So this is another win for the deep state, that this guy was not indicted by a grand jury. If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come after you, she says. I just learned that this defendant worked at the Department of Justice. No longer. Not only is he fired, he's been charged with a felony. This is an example of the deep state. That's the most ridiculous tweet of the year. We have been up against for 7 months as we work to refocus DOJ. You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement. All right, so that brings us a little bit up to date, folks, here. So let's talk about how they were not able to pursue imprisonment of 8 years for that offense. U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro's office on Thursday charged a man accused of throwing a sandwich at a Customs and Border Protection agent in Washington, D.C. this month with misdemeanor assault, issuing the charge 1 day after it failed to persuade a grand jury to return a felony indictment. The incident took place August 10th in the heart of D.C.'s U Street corridor, a neighborhood that played a historic role in the civil rights era and is now a nightlife hotspot. A Justice Department employee told NBC News that Dunn at the time worked in the International Affairs section of the Criminal Division at the Justice Department. After the incident, Bondi said Dunn was promptly fired from the department, later writing in a statement, "You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement." Federal prosecutors initially sought to charge Dunn with felony assault, which requires a grand jury indictment from a panel of Washington residents. But a jury on Wednesday declined to return an indictment, an implicit suggestion that residents did not identify sufficient probable cause to back the charge. So just so everybody knows, it is extremely rare. This is where the phrase "you can indict a ham sandwich" comes from. It is extremely rare for the government not to secure an indictment when they want one, especially on federal charges. I think the indictment rate is something like 80 to 95%, depending on the particulars of the case.
That's what they did with Abrego Garcia.
Right.
They got a couple of actual human smugglers to cut a deal with them to just say whatever they wanted, and they got the grand jury to indict.
Right. Exactly. And so the fact that they could not indict on felony charges is significant. Misdemeanor sentencing is much, much less than felony sentencing. Misdemeanor is up to 1 year in jail, which he almost certainly will not get. He'll probably end up paying a fine. That's probably what will come of this. Whereas the felony charge carries, obviously, the maximum sentence of 8 years, which they were salivating to give this guy. The decision...
I mean, if he's smart, he starts a podcast, man. They'll probably give him $8,000 a month now.
Yeah, he'll get Jersey Mike's to sponsor it or something like that. Yeah. The decision is not the first time a D.C. grand jury has opted as condiments sponsoring it. Heinz ketchup, Golden's mustard. The decision is not the first time a D.C. grand jury has opted against signing off on charges, with prosecutors repeatedly having failed to secure a felony indictment against the woman who was arrested on suspicion of assaulting FBI agents during an immigration-related protest last month, the New York Times reported. The jury's decision also signaled a mounting backlash among D.C. residents to Trump's surge of federal law enforcement personnel, which critics have panned as unnecessary, a scare tactic, and racially motivated. So I like this joke. I put this one in here for Russell. I knew he would love this. Sandwich guy not indicted by grand jury. It just didn't cut the mustard. Boom. There we go. That puts a capper on that segment. But yeah, this is something that we have to keep in mind too. And, this is something that I think, people should think about and take some solace in. Like, ultimately, it takes grand juries to go along with this, like, kind of a crackdown, unless you're talking about, like, an ICE raid or sending someone to CCOT. When it comes to, like, this kind of just, like, unbelievably cruel and draconian sort of crime and punishment policy, yeah, they got to get these indictments. So, like, the more people understand just how out of control and sadistic this administration is, the more likely that they just won't return the indictments that they want. Because ultimately, if they have to go through a grand jury, ultimately the people do have a say. And we're not used to kind of taking that into consideration, because typically, this is where the phrase comes from, you can indict a ham sandwich, the indictment is essentially automatic. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. They're hitting a few snags here, because to the average person, especially in a place like D.C., which is overwhelmingly anti-Trump at the residential level, they understand that this is all just extremely wrong-headed at best, mean-spirited and sadistic and fascistic and authoritarian at worst. And this is a trademark of fascists, an obsession with crime and punishment. The idea that Kash Patel, I mean, Pam Bondi is on MAGA's shit list because of the Epstein stuff anyway. But the idea that, and so is Kash Patel to a certain extent, not as much as her. The idea that he thought it looked good to, like, go out there and threaten this fucking drunk asshole with 8 years in jail for throwing a sandwich, that he thought this is going to play well to the base, that just shows you what they're trying to do. They're trying to do is a movement of weak men who get off on mistreatment of other people because it makes them feel more powerful themselves. What should this guy do?
Yep.
I don't condone throwing food at people. He'll pay a fine. That's the appropriate penalty. All right, slap on the wrist, get a little fine, whatever. 8 years in jail for this, which they were trying to pursue to make an example. What does that tell you about their priorities? That they would try and lock this guy up for 8 years for getting drunk and throwing a sandwich.
Right, and this was really like right after they dropped the Epstein bomb. Nothing to see here, folks, that they start screaming about the deep state Subway sandwich throwers that they've exposed. What kind of sick psychopath do you have to be to want to put somebody in jail for 8 years for throwing a sandwich? And you're right. I mean, you look at the whole online space that passes for political engagement in this so-called movement, and that's all it is, man. Like, and that's to be fair, they get away with it so much. You can understand why they thought they would. Like, the more over the top it is, the better if your base is largely made up of people who feel powerless and get some vicarious thrill in connecting themselves to that kind of sadistic, draconian proposition.
Right. Exactly. Like, don't we all, I mean, a lot of ink is spilled in this country about North Korea putting people in jail for a long time for stupid reasons. Okay, well, what is this? What is this? I mean, they made a show of trying to put this guy away for 8 years for throwing food while he was intoxicated. Okay, so what does that say about your country? I mean, how totalitarian are we in that respect? And is that a country you want to live in? Like, do these people want to live in a police state like that? Apparently they do. Apparently they do, because that's the short-term thrill of this, is you are now the in party with power. But, power is never permanent. By hook or by crook, power changes. And the only way this downward spiral stops is for one side to say, you know what, the principle is more important. And, the Democrats made a lot of mistakes, overstepping in that way. And mistakes is a generous way of putting it. They did a lot of it knowingly and willfully. The January 6th persecutions, putting, trying to lock up a guy like the Jacob Chansley, the Hager, the horrible guy, a diagnosed schizophrenic who's on camera, not hurting anybody, just led from room to room. They wouldn't let his lawyers use that in court against them. I mean, so yeah, they were absolutely horrible. And now this is an escalation. The only way it stops is for one party to say, you know what, if it doesn't stop here, we're all going to be living in a society that we don't like very much. And it seems like neither side is really willing to, blow the whistle on that and realize that.
Yeah, I mean, you also make a great point. Like, can you imagine what they would do with that story if in China a guy got 8 years for throwing a sandwich?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
Or Russia, or any country we have an antagonistic relationship with.
Oh, yeah. Fox News would the New York Post, all these right-wing, tabloid outlets would, point to that as an example of how free we are compared to them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why you should be glad. What we have our problems, but we don't lock people up for 8 years for throwing a sandwich.
Right. Exactly.
Except when we do.
Except for when we do. Right. Or we try. Luckily, in this case, the good people of D.C. intervened and said no indictment. Sorry. Matrix, thanks for the $1.99. USA Stankonia. Appreciate that. Bloodthirsty Mayonnaise says MAGA pulls to the left, anti-war, anti-vax, healthy food, anti-cheap immigrant labor that hurts corporations more than regular Republicans. They're anti-war, really? MAGA's anti-war. I didn't realize that. I kind of
since when?
Yeah. Yeah. Healthy food too. Yeah. The Truth Seeker, Jose's vision on rebuild cities and trains make me think the right industrial policy would have given us cities like we see in China. There's no reason we couldn't have been that. That is true. Thanks, Truth Seeker. Appreciate that. Cool Blue, the dark money content creators cannot spin the fact that they are bought. Corrupt. Thank you, Cool Blue. Appreciate that. Kenman says, do you think papers like The Guardian also function the same way as these paid-off Pakman types reign in the left? Yeah, I mean, I would say, there is a certain, liberal intelligentsia that just sort of, sets the standard. So, outlets like The Times and The Guardian. What's interesting about the Pakman story and that story in general is that you saw a lot of the wealthy people and institutions who sort of set the agenda realize that there's this new space that's emerged, and to see how quickly and how shamelessly they just infiltrated that so that they can control that. I mean, the Guardian's been around forever. The Times have been around forever. And yeah, obviously there's narrative management in the media. What's interesting about this story is you see how they swooped in to try and hijack this new media so that it didn't get out of their control. Nina Can't interview the felony sandwich guy. Sounds delicious. Thank you. Appreciate that. Furrows Queen says, normally send $1 rants, but I am not in the best frame of mind, so here's 5. It may cheer me up, given more, and you guys can maybe get a sandwich to throw at a Fed. Lots of love to all of you and the chat. Well, there used to be $5 footlongs. We could have split that.
Yeah.
But that's no more. Eric Main says, update sandwich thrower case under further review as by DOJ, as his choice of non-kosher deli meat is clearly anti-Semitic. Piro noted, why not tuna? That's right. Yes, they could charge him for a hate crime if it was not a kosher sandwich. That's true. Good point, Eric Mains. All right, everybody, that is our show. Appreciate you very much for being here. We are going to head over to Rumble now for the Q&A. You can catch us there at dudissidents.com/Rumble. We want to thank you all for being here this evening. Thanks to Amali Yeshatella for a great day today, and Eric, of course, for helping us out. We are going to film some more material tomorrow and Tuesday. Production got kind of pushed back a full week, so we will have more for you throughout the week to report on from St. Louis. We will also be back here Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. We're still doing that 2 p.m. because we're doing the interviews, I think, later in the day.
Which? What?
Tuesday, this Tuesday, regular time.
Oh, yeah.
That looks good. All right. So Tuesday at 2 p.m., Jennifer Ogle got a super chat in right under the wire. Appreciate the show. Living in Florida could be like Bizarro World. You guys are a connection to sanity in an area saturated with peasant mentality and people who enjoy wearing alligator Alcatraz T-shirts. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know what would be a great subject for a documentary is the Miccosukis down there. But
oh yeah,
that would be amazing. But I don't know. I got a thing about mosquitoes and snakes and alligators. That would be scary for me. I would be afraid to do that one.
Fucking coming here was scary for you.
Yeah. It wasn't scary. It was just it was
You're
inconvenient.
like, what is that water? I'm like, it's the Mississippi,
It's
dude.
yeah.
It's a river. You never saw a river?
That would be an interesting one, though. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that super chat. All right, everybody. We are going to hop over to Rumble for the Q&A after a brief intermission. Jake, we're not making intermissions this week. Obviously, no time, so we're just going to hit the standard one in just a moment. But we do want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Smash that like button on the way out. Smash that subscribe button. Smash that follow button over on Rumble. Callers can start forming the queue now. We're going to go to an intermission, and we will see everybody who wants to hang out on the other side for the Q&A after party. Everybody else, we will see you back here Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate your support. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.